6 late-stage ancestral Dao, 10 mid-stage ancestral Dao, and 5 early-stage ancestral Dao. The Dao Palace spared no effort in dispatching a large number of elite warriors to capture Xiang Beifei, creating an incredibly grand spectacle. This immense formation astonished all cultivators, who in their lifetimes had never witnessed such a vast array. Typically, seeing even one ancestral Dao realm expert was extremely rare, but who could have imagined that today there would be over 20? In the face of this overwhelming force, these cultivators striving to comprehend the Dao felt like pitifully small ants in the universe. No matter how they struggled, these experts could obliterate them with just a thought. This is the definitive disparity in power. Xiang Beifei was encircled by so many elite warriors, and he furrowed his brow slightly. Dragged beneath the city of no pretense, there were no less than 10,000 cultivators, and safeguarding their lives was a highly challenging task. Buzz! Across the way, 21 ancestral Dao realm experts radiated light, each figure appearing as an invincible war god among the heavens and earth, infusing spiritual power into the surrounding sea of flames. The breath soil in the sky, accompanied by blazing flames, burned increasingly fiercely, surging back to fall on the city of no pretense. Though the mustard seed and palm was incredibly hard, it wasn't enough to resist the onslaught of 21 ancestral Dao realm experts. Xiang Beifei leapt into the air and drew a long knife from the void. Buzz! A bright blade light emerged, with a chilling and penetrating presence soaring to the sky, transforming into a colossal beam that tore open the void. The blades in the air seemed to split open a chasm, covering the surroundings, distorting the void. All the flames across the sky were blocked by these blade lights, separated and prevented from crossing that chasm. Murder-sealing sword. An explosively powerful sword, sealing substantial heavenly Dao forces, had chosen to aid Xiang Beifei. Wu Zhejiu's pupils contracted as he recognized the sword, and his face instantly turned furious. The Dao Palace was exceptionally familiar with all ancestral artifacts of the Common Valley. Murder-sealing sword was once an incredibly dominant ancestral artifact, immensely powerful, still formidable even with a broken hilt, and the Dao Palace's people always desired to obtain it. Murder-sealing sword was trapped in the Common Valley for 100,000 years, but mysteriously vanished recently. Now they were certain. Indeed, Wu Feng had taken it. Thinking of the 79 stolen ancestral artifacts from the Common Valley, all Dao Palace elders were gnashing their teeth in anger. Kill him and take back our ancestral artifact. Wu Zhejiu roared. Boom! 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 The ancestral Dao realm experts combined their forces, and the sky and earth changed color. Countless lights burst forth around. Chaos enveloped the void, and crisscross waves of spiritual power seemed to tear the void, pressing down towards Xiang Beifei. Your ancestral artifact? Really dare to claim that? The Common Valley had never belonged to the Dao Palace. Ancestral artifacts were sealed in the Dao Palace, but could not possibly be owned by them. They merely occupied the Common Valley shamelessly, believing all incomplete ancestral artifacts to be theirs. Xiang Beifei, facing the myriad attacks of ancestral Dao realm directed at him, did not retreat. Instead, he lunged forward to confront them. Buzz! Gripping the murder-sealing sword, a vast blade intent poured into his hand, representing the late-stage ancestral Dao realm power. Concurrently, black and white spiritual power rapidly emerged from Xiang Beifei's hand, enveloping the murder-sealing sword, which slashed forward into the void once again. The entire void seemed to pause, space becoming distorted as though unable to withstand the terrifying blow. Boom! Boom! Xiang Beifei's blade light appeared to span time and space, shattering all Dao Palace elder attacks. Bang! 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 Explosive spiritual power fluctuations erupted everywhere, as if the void continuously obliterated. This frightening battle invoked a sense of apocalypse among the cultivators beside the city of no pretense. They saw just one man and his sword, standing before all cultivators, battling over 20 ancestral Dao realm experts alone. The power of the murder-sealing sword was indeed formidable, making even ancestral Dao realm experts of Dao Palace wear a grave expression and grow greedier. This legendary powerful ancestral artifact must be reclaimed, Wu Zhejiu shouted. He still believed that all ancestral artifacts in the world should belong to their Dao Palace, including the murder sealing sword. Buzz! 21 powerful lights blazed again, blasting towards Xiang Beifei. Dao Palace's ancestral Dao realm experts showed no mercy, consolidating all their spiritual power, strength equating, and even surpassing an ancestral artifact's attack. Xiang Beifei merely blocked momentarily, realizing the difficulty as each ancestral Dao realm expert targeted him, his form continually dodging, sequentially blocking 21 attacks. At this moment, the ancestral artifact on Wu Mingxian's wrist was also seized by Wu Zhejiu, forming a large stone ring in his hand, gray and rough. The stone ring was irregular, appearing oval-shaped, adorned with various embossed stone motifs, each glowing gray around Wu Zhejiu. Whoosh! The stone ring's light burst forth abruptly, blasting towards Xiang Beifei again. Forgotten Heavenly Dao's law began to bind everything around Xiang Beifei. In this domain, all were influenced by the ancestral artifact's law. The powerful force of forgetfulness crashed onto Xiang Beifei's knife light, which was originally aimed at Wu Zhejiu, but in an instant, it was influenced by the Forgotten Heavenly Dao's laws. It seemed to forget its target, wandered in the air for a couple of turns, and not knowing where to slash, just randomly chopped elsewhere. What an eerie law! Xiang Beifei couldn't help but muse to himself. The Forgotten Heavenly Dao is formidable not just because it makes people forget memories. It also takes effect in various aspects, affecting both living and non-living things. The knife light that Xiang Beifei swung just now was imposing as a rainbow, unstoppable. But upon encountering the law of forgetfulness, it surprisingly forgot the target it was meant to strike. Xiang Beifei, without any hesitation, soared up again and swung another slash in the direction of Wu Zhejiu and those guys. The knife light nearly shattered the defenses of those Dao Palace folks. But the next moment, the power of the Forgotten Heavenly Dao surged again, making the knife light forget its target and carelessly slash in a direction. At this moment, Wu Zhejiu's stone ring once again glowed, and the force of the law swept over Xiang Beifei like a tide. The Heavenly Dao Law's power is terrifying. They hold the truths of the world and maintain the order of the world. All things must be bound by them. Even Xiang Beifei would be influenced by this power. If he were affected by this powerful force of the Forgotten Heavenly Dao, he might forget his origin and race, just like Jiaoluo, becoming a puppet of the Dao Palace. Xiang Beifei immediately leapt backward, dodging the rolling force of the law. But this force quickly clung to the rift he had slashed open with the murder-sealing sword to avoid the sea of fire. Snap! The power of the rift also seemed to be influenced, turning left and right, forgetting who it was supposed to protect, and collapsed instantly. The force of the Forgotten Heavenly Dao's law also swept to the outermost mustard seed in palm, used to protect those cultivators. The mustard seed in palm, struck by the force of the Forgotten Heavenly Dao, immediately became fragile. They no longer firmly gathered as before. Instead, as if they forgot their original characteristics, they started to fall apart. This situation was very dire because if the protection of the mustard seed in palm were to break, those cultivators would lose their lives. These cultivators had little relation to Xiang Beifei, but he didn't want to see the Dao Palace casually slaughter a large group of cultivators. With his eyes focused, the force of 4 bricks immediately spread. Bang! Golden formation patterns exploded out instantly, densely crawling over the perimeter of the city of No Pretense, enveloping the entire area. The whole area seemed to slow down. Everything became extremely sluggish. Even the speed of the spreading law of forgetfulness slowed down. However, the law of forgetfulness was too powerful. Though its speed was slowed, it still fought against the power of the bricks, affecting the formation patterns created by the bricks, causing them to forget their purpose. 2 powerful Heavenly Dao laws contended with each other, mutually influencing. The formation pattern of the bricks slowed the impact speed of the law of forgetfulness, but the law of forgetfulness also made the bricks forget their capabilities, mutually restricting each other. Xiang Beifei took advantage of the interval to extricate himself, avoiding the force of the law of forgetfulness. But Wu Zhejiu did not stop there. He waved his hand again. The stone ring erupted once more with a destructive black aura that soared to the sky, merged into the void, and crashed onto the formation patterns of the bricks. Crack, crack, crack. The slow domain force created by the formation patterns weakened gradually. As if forcibly weakened, the erosion speed of the forgotten heavenly Tao started to increase. 10 not complete 1 heavenly Tao? Xiang Beifei's gaze became slightly solemn. The stone ring didn't seal 1 heavenly Tao law, but many laws, with 10 not complete 1 heavenly Tao being one of them. The 10 not complete 1 heavenly Tao can make something reduced to just less than 1/10, including length, power, speed, etc. No matter how powerful Xiang Beifei's formation pattern strength, it couldn't withstand 2 overlapping laws. The power of the formation was forcibly reduced to less than 1/10 of its original. The bricks were not complete ancestral artifacts, and now weakened, even harder to resist. The domain created by the bricks collapsed almost instantly. Wu Zhejiu raised his hand again, and the powerful laws twisted in the void and came towards Xiang Beifei, targeting him. The forgotten heavenly Tao and 10 not complete 1 heavenly Tao laws attacked from the front and back, sealing all escape routes for Xiang Beifei so tightly that the space was locked, making it impossible for Xiang Beifei to teleport away. Surrender obediently. Wu Zhejiu sneered. The 2 heavenly Tao laws accelerated their pace, reaching Xiang Beifei in a blink, leaving him almost no time to dodge. If he were hit by either of these 2 heavenly Tao forces, there would be no doubt they would capture Xiang Beifei. But just then, behind Xiang Beifei appeared an ancient clock, simple and heavy, carrying a sense of antiquity as if it had crossed vast time and space, freezing the surrounding aura. Dong! The ancient clock protected Xiang Beifei firmly, and in the next moment, the forgotten heavenly Tao and 10 not complete 1 laws had already struck the ancient clock, immediately stirring up a powerful wave. The ancient clock began to reverberate, spreading ripples. Another ancestral artifact? Useless. Wu Zhejiu didn't recognize the ancient clock, but he had great confidence in his stone ring heavenly Tao laws, and still increased his power. But at this moment, he suddenly felt something was wrong, because when the 2 powerful heavenly Tao laws struck Xiang Beifei's ancient clock, they neither weakened Xiang Beifei nor affected the ancient clock. Instead, Xiang Beifei, enshrouded by the ancient clock, suddenly disappeared. But in the blink of an eye, at the place where Xiang Beifei originally stood, another man appeared. It was another ancestral Tao realm elder of the Tao Palace, Wu Fengruo. Wu Fengruo was also stunned. He couldn't understand what happened. Just now he was clearly on the periphery of the battle center, maintaining the sealing formation with others, jointly attacking Xiang Beifei. But no one expected. He was suddenly pulled over by an invisible force. He had no way to resist this force. It was forcible, as if at that moment in this world, he shouldn't be standing there, but should be standing here where Xiang Beifei was. Bang! The 2 heavenly Tao forces crashed onto Wu Fengruo in an instant. Wu Fengruo spewed a massive amount of blood. His soul was stunned by the 2 heavenly Tao forces. His power quickly waned in an instant, and simultaneously his expression became dazed, like just waking from sleep, filled with confusion. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Wu Fengruo even forgot why he appeared here, forgot his identity, forgot his power, forgot everything about himself. To crush Xiang Beifei, the forgotten heavenly Tao's force went all out. This powerful and terrifying force immediately made Wu Fengruo like an idiot, forgetting everything, even forgetting to operate his power for defense. And those attacking Xiang Beifei were not just the forgotten heavenly Tao and 10 not complete 1 laws, but also the attacks of 20 ancestral Tao realm experts. This included the spiritual power sent out by Wu Fengruo. These attacks were just a beat slower than the 2 laws. Bang! 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 The 21 ancestral Tao realm elders of the Tao Palace all struck Wu Fengruo with their attacks, and successive explosions resounded. Wu Fengruo, already weakened, forgot to defend, unable to withstand the attacks of the 21 forces. In just an instant, his body exploded, and his soul was directly torn apart, leaving nothing but fragments. How could this be? Wu Zhejiu was stunned. In shock, The other 19 ancestral Dao realm experts were also dumbfounded, gasping in disbelief. They never imagined that, instead of capturing Xiang Beifei, they took down one of their own. The heaven and earth position exchange can swap the positions of two people. The ability of the Tai Bell is very strange. Normally, it does not show off, but it seals many of the heavenly Dao laws. The heaven and earth position exchange is a very useful heavenly Dao ability. Just now, these ancestral Dao realm experts all launched attacks on Xiang Beifei, and Xiang Beifei collected the auras of these ancestral Dao realm experts. As long as their auras are recognized by Xiang Beifei, he can exchange positions with them. The heavenly Dao laws are extremely domineering. Everyone in this world is constrained by various heavenly Dao laws, and everything must adhere to the existence of heavenly Dao laws. So when Xiang Beifei and Wu Fengrua swapped positions, Wu Fengrua had no way to resist. Because in Wu Fengrua's cognition, swapping positions with Xiang Beifei seemed to be a natural thing, so he was instantly killed by his own companion. This ability is indeed useful. Xiang Beifei turned to look at the Tai Bell floating by his side, but the Tai Bell remained calm and unruffled, as if the thing that just happened had nothing to do with it. His gaze fell upon Wu Zhejiu. The reason he hadn't attacked Wu Zhejiu earlier was that Wu Zhejiu's strength was at the late ancestral Dao stage, and he had an ancestral artifact for protection. When the power of the heavenly Dao rushed toward him, the ancestral artifact could sense it, and the stone ring's forgotten heavenly Dao and 10 not complete one heavenly Dao might also render the heaven and earth position exchange ineffective. So Xiang Beifei chose Wu Fengrua, who was furthest away from the stone ring. But that was enough. Eliminating one meant reducing the opponent's strength by a portion. If they dared to attack him again, he wouldn't mind giving them another unpredictable position swap. Hold your attack. But Wu Zhejiu reacted quickly. Although he was an experienced expert, he immediately judged the situation. An ancestral artifact with position exchange laws? Wu Zhejiu's face was extremely grim. In this manner, it would be difficult for him to attack the opponent, because no one knew with whom Xiang Beifei would exchange his position among the elders. The other ancestral Dao realm elders were also filled with fear. The scene of Wu Fengrua being killed left a deep impression on them, and they couldn't help but feel alarmed and anxious, wondering if the same fate awaited any expert in Wu Fengrua's place. Great Elder, what do we do now? An ancestral Dao realm elder asked in a low voice. Wu Zhejiu's expression was uncertain. Although Wu Fengrua could still be resurrected after being killed by their own people, the cost of resurrection was too great. To counter Xiang Beifei's ancestral artifact ability, they must use the corresponding heavenly Dao laws to restrain it. With the heavenly Dao law of the heaven and earth position exchange, naturally, there would be the heavenly Dao law of no exchange. But the problem was, he didn't possess that heavenly Dao law. However, Wu Zhejiu was not too flustered. He immediately gathered all the remaining ancestral Dao realm experts around him. Then the stone ring ancestral artifact expanded, encircling all the ancestral Dao realm experts. The ability of the forgotten heavenly Dao swiftly protected everyone. So when Xiang Beifei tried to swap positions with any ancestral Dao realm expert, it had to pass through the stone ring ancestral artifact. This was indeed a solution, showing that Wu Zhejiu's response was very swift. After encircling everyone, he immediately started attacking Xiang Beifei again. Bang! Bang! Overwhelming spiritual power unleashed a variety of destructive forces, pressing down on Xiang Beifei. Let's see who you'll swap with this time. Wu Zhejiu shouted coldly. The forgotten heavenly Dao fused with all the ancestral Dao realm experts' spiritual power, becoming even stronger and firmly locked onto Xiang Beifei's position. Such a powerful attack could not simply be evaded by speed. But Xiang Beifei disappeared once more. In his place was a stone, a very ordinary stone. Boom! The stone was directly blasted into Shuang by the terrifying surge. And Xiang Beifei had long since retreated, having moved 10 miles to the left. The heaven and earth position exchange can not only exchange the positions of living beings, but also swap positions with any objects. Xiang Beifei had anticipated this point and had set up various methods around him. Exchanging positions with a stone was also doable. He continuously evaded Wu Zhejiu's powerful attacks, Regardless of how strong Wu Zhejiu's stone ring was, it couldn't reach him. Damn it! Wu Zhejiu had already seen that Xiang Beifei's strength was at most in the middle stage of the Ancestral Dao and simply could not withstand the combined attacks of their 20 Ancestral Dao realm experts. To say nothing of anything else, even without relying on the Ancestral Artifact in a one-on-one fight, Wu Zhejiu, in the late Ancestral Dao stage, was absolutely confident he could suppress Xiang Beifei. But the problem was, the opponent had various strange heavenly Dao laws, always narrowly avoiding Wu Zhejiu's attacks. Since you want to swap positions, then I will flatten this area. Wu Zhejiu's body suddenly shook, releasing destructive forces that spread in all directions, destroying everything without leaving any objects, giving Xiang Beifei no chance to swap. The terrifying wave swept out, also charging towards the city of no pretense, and Wu Zhejiu still did not spare these cultivators, as he believed Xiang Beifei might use these cultivators for the heaven and earth position exchange to protect himself. Only by killing all the cultivators could Xiang Beifei be completely cornered. But at this moment, Xiang Beifei waved his hand again. The Tai bell suddenly emitted a long, distant sound once again, spreading far and wide, echoing above every cultivator's head. Whoosh! 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 Countless whirlwinds appeared between heaven and earth, quickly swallowing all the cultivators. In an instant, the void became clear, the cultivators vanished without a trace. Even Wu Zhejiu's sealing of the void was irrelevant, with only the city of no pretense left standing there alone. And Xiang Beifei himself had already leaped onto the city of no pretense. Boom! 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 Violent spiritual power poured down, crashing onto the city of no pretense, its world-destroying aura seemingly capable of consuming everything. The city of no pretense appeared extremely dilapidated, its walls full of gaps and teetering, but strangely enough, it remained stable under the terrifying attack, not even bothering to move, nor did the dust on its walls rise up. This ruined city stubbornly shielded Xiang Beifei from all attacks, absorbing them completely. How can this be? Wu Zhejiu froze again. Where are those cultivators? All the Dao Palace cultivators were astonished, knowing that they had just relied on great power to seal this space, using the might of ancestral artifacts. Yet thousands of cultivators disappeared just like that. How could they leave here so easily? But soon everyone seemed to remember the whirlwinds and realized something. It's the transference heavenly Dao, the Litian spear. Wu Zhejiu's face instantly twisted. When those whirlwinds appeared earlier, he realized it immediately. These whirlwinds were all too familiar to them because that was the ability of the Litian spear, which had once guarded Xin City as a mighty ancestral artifact. Later, it became complete, initially exciting the Dao Palace, thinking they had assembled a complete ancestral artifact, strengthening their powers even further. Yet who would have thought this ancestral artifact soon disappeared, and they didn't know who took the Litian spear. And now it seems the rules of the transference heavenly Dao have emerged here, executed through the Tai bell. There's only one reason. You actually swallowed the Litian spear. Wu Zhejiu was utterly enraged. If it doesn't obey, then swallow it, it's simple. Xiang Beifei extended his finger and tapped the Tai bell beside him, causing the bell to emit a heavy, clear chime. After seizing the Litian spear, it was always reluctant to serve him, being quite stubborn, so Xiang Beifei unceremoniously tossed it to the Tai bell to be devoured. Initially, he intended to have the Yu Divine Steel swallow the Litian spear, but the Litian spear was stronger than the Yu Divine Steel, making it impossible to be consumed by it. Coincidentally, he discovered the ancient and profound strength of the Tai bell, exceeding that of the Litian spear, thus utilizing it as food for the Tai bell. The swallowing of ancestral artifacts meant all the heavenly Dao laws sealed by the consumed artifact would be devoured as well. Consequently, all of the Litian spear's abilities merged into the Tai bell, naturally including the transference heavenly Dao. At this moment, Wu Zhejiu watched Xiang Beifei land on the city of no pretense's wall, coldly laughing once more. Humph, what if you've swallowed the ancestral artifact? Dare to enter the city of no pretense and you're already dead. Wu Zhejiu sneered. The city of no pretense, universally known as a forbidden land in the Edge Corner airspace. Any cultivator entering the city of no pretense cannot emerge. They will be consumed. Xiang Beifei's eyebrows slightly raised. You mean entering the city of no pretense means you can't get out? You evidently don't know the might of the city of no pretense. You're truly a frog in a well. I just want to see how you're killed by the power of the city of no pretense. Wu Zhejiu seemed unconcerned. In his view, Xiang Beifei entered the city of no pretense to evade his attacks, which made him as good as dead. He now considered how to enter the city of no pretense to retrieve Xiang Beifei's ancestral artifact. But Xiang Beifei casually stood atop the wall, saying, "Do I look like someone who can't leave the city of no pretense?" Wu Zhejiu was stunned. Why would this ignorant fellow be so confident? Wait, why hasn't the city of no pretense pulled him in yet? The Dao Palace had continuously researched the city of no pretense. This city was extremely mysterious, with even ancestral Dao realm masters unable to exit. The Dao Palace had once forcibly sent cultivators in to explore the city's secrets, but once inside, they were dragged away by some unknown entity, never heard from again. They initially relied on the resurrection power of the Resurrection Heavenly Way to have those entering the city recount their experiences. But each cultivator's encounter differed, leaving nothing concrete. The only certainty was that no one could resist the city's power. Yet, Xiang Beifei, after entering the city of no pretense, seemed unaffected. Wu Zhejiu was utterly baffled, then suddenly shocked, for Xiang Beifei was now walking out of the city of no pretense. "How can you leave the city of no pretense?" Wu Zhejiu exclaimed in shock. He couldn't believe it, for the fame of the city of no pretense's might was widespread. How did this guy remain unscathed, walking out like it was no big deal? Xiang Beifei didn't explain. He gripped the murder-sealing sword again, spiritual power converging as he struck towards Wu Zhejiu and his men. Wu Zhejiu felt today's events were more puzzling. This guy had acquired several ancestral artifacts and mastered numerous heavenly Dao laws, yet freely walked through the city of no pretense, unscathed. He had only one ancestral artifact today. If he continued fighting, he'd likely stand no chance. Because if the opponent were losing, they'd simply dart into the city of no pretense, which felt rather unfair, rendering further fighting meaningless. "Damn it! I'll get you!" Wu Zhejiu acted decisively, blocking one of Xiang Beifei's attacks before immediately retreating with the remaining ancestral Dao realm masters, vanishing in a flash. Darn! Escaped so fast. Xiang Beifei wanted to chase but didn't know where to pursue. Oh dear! Didn't obtain the stone ring ancestral artifact. Those cowards. Let's battle another 300 rounds if they dare. Xiaohe said angrily, hands on hips. Era also complained. Feifei, why didn't you stop them? You have so many ancestral artifacts. Use more heavenly Dao laws. It's not that simple. Do you think they're made of straw? Xiang Beifei said indignantly. Indeed, he owned many ancestral artifacts, mastering multiple heavenly Dao laws. But the issue lay with the chaotic nature of these laws. Many were not meant for battle. For example, the nail laws, controlling the existence of nails for all living creatures, the frown laws, regulating the ability to frown, the plastic laws, determining if plastic can exist in this world, plus various race-specific rules like the Crane Dao laws, deciding life and death for Crane race people, Serpent Dao rules, determining the existence of the Serpent Dao race. These race laws, akin to the Giant Spirit's Giant Spirit Dao, could only control whether a race exists. But these heavenly Dao laws were useless in battles against Dao Palace. What would be the point in inhibiting their nails or preventing them from frowning? Would it really weaken their combat power? Most importantly, Wu Zhejiu possessed the forgotten heavenly Dao and 10 not complete one Dao, powerful laws that forcibly weakened power and induced forgetting, making it hard for Xiang Beifei to gain an advantage. Then it seems dealing with Dao Palace is too difficult. Without grabbing that stone ring ancestral artifact, defeating them is hard. Yumong remarked. This was indeed a problem. The Dao Palace's rule over Edge Corner airspace lasted for 10,000 years, clearly possessing formidable techniques, and in direct combat, Dao Palace was unlikely to suffer losses. Xiang Beifei quietly pondered for a moment, then said, It appears we must take that route. Which route? Era asked. Trading ancestral artifact fragments with them. Xiang Beifei held many incomplete ancestral artifacts in his hands, along with some fragments, such as the ancestral artifact fragments of a three-legged cauldron and the five-string qin, as well as bronze fragments and half a jade fragment whose origins were unknown. The Dao Palace had a tight grip on the bodies of these ancestral artifacts. Incomplete ancestral artifacts faced significant limitations in their abilities, only able to wield parts of the heavenly Dao laws, some of which were insignificant, unable to offer them much help. The Dao Palace naturally was eager to find all the fragments of the ancestral artifacts. Xiaohe asked, what if they gain more powerful heavenly Dao laws through artifact fragment trade? This concern was not without merit. The Dao Palace already possessed many mighty ancestral artifacts. Just the heavenly Dao laws brought by the stone ring caused enough trouble for them, leaving him almost without a way to deal with these laws. As for what ancestral artifacts the five-string qin, the bronze pieces, and that jade piece sealed, Xiang Beifei had no way to ascertain. However, Xiang Beifei still had to try. There's no choice but to gamble, because correspondingly Wufeng and the 5 pieces of stone were equally important to him. He also very much needed the complete Wufeng and 5 pieces of stone. It was obvious how important these 2 ancestral artifacts were. The three-legged cauldron that controlled the fate of all Zhuzhou needed to be reclaimed by any means. Of course, the most important was the ancestral artifact that sealed the humanity law. The humanity law determined whether the human race could exist in this world. Current information suggested that the humanity ancestral artifact was also incomplete, which was the only piece of good news. But Xiang Beifei was not at ease because the body of the humanity ancestral artifact was also in the hands of the Dao Palace, with the whereabouts of the humanity ancestral artifact fragments unknown, leaving him constantly uneasy. Do you think the Dao Palace will agree to exchange so many ancestral artifacts? Xiaohe asked. We have to give it a try. Xiang Beifei could not storm into Xijing City. The Dao Palace would be on guard against him now, making retrieving his ancestral artifacts unlikely. Era asked, so where do we go to trade? We can't just hold the artifact fragments and run to Xijing City to negotiate, right? That doesn't seem wise. Making a deal on someone else's turf didn't seem very safe, no matter how you looked at it. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment, then slowly said, no need. We'll wait for them to come. Wait for them to come? Era tilted his head in confusion. So dumb, of course, we're going to hang the ancestral artifact fragments over the city of No Pretense. Fighting on our home ground gives us the advantage, Xiaohe said, hand on hips. The Dao Palace always eyed the city of No Pretense covetously. If anything changed in the city of No Pretense, they would surely know immediately. Xiang Beifei only needed to hang the ancestral artifact fragments over the city of No Pretense. With the city's protection, he could force the Dao Palace's experts to negotiate by themselves. In the boundless void, there was a golden glowing sand city, the city radiating brilliant light, with each grain of breath soil shining like gold, extremely majestic and luxurious. Xijing City, the place guarded most rigorously by the Dao Palace, was also the core area. Wu Zhejiu returned here with the remaining experts of the ancestral Dao realm, looking extremely sullen. He is not Wufeng. Who the hell is he? Wu Zhejiu glared coldly at Wu Mengqian. During the battle earlier, he didn't let Wu Mengqian intervene because he knew of her past relationship with Wufeng, believing she wouldn't exert her full strength, so he merely imprisoned her. Wu Mengqian lowered her head and shook it, saying, I don't know who he is. You told him to wait in the city of No Pretense while at Common Valley, and now you dare to deny it? Wu Zhejiu shouted angrily. Wu Mengqian said, I thought he was Wufeng. Maybe I was mistaken. Mistaken? One mistake of yours put Wu Fengrua in trouble. Humph. Do you think I can still believe your words? I'm sorry. I will bear any consequences. Please, Elder, forgive me. Wu Mengqian gritted her teeth and said, slap. Wu Zhejiu raised his hand and slapped Wu Mengqian across the face. She grunted, a red mark appearing on her cheek. her complexion turning a shade paler. You have disappointed me greatly. I've groomed you for so many years, and this is how you repay me, by conspiring with outsiders against me? You ask me to forgive you, but how could I possibly forgive your crime? Wu Zhejiu was extremely angry. Wu Mengqian remained silent, unsure of what to do, her mind in chaos. She didn't know what to do now. Wu Feng hadn't come, leaving her a bit lost, but she was also somewhat relieved he didn't show up. She understood such thoughts were wrong. She was a cultivator of the Dao Palace, a member of the Hutu tribe, harboring an irreconcilable enmity with the human race, and shouldn't be helping Wu Feng. But every time, she couldn't get Wu Feng's image out of her mind, remembering everything about that man. She simply couldn't convince herself. Mengqian has committed a capital crime and is willing to accept punishment, Wu Mengqian murmured. Seeing Wu Mengqian still showing no signs of repentance, Wu Zhejiu felt even more furious. If it weren't for our current lack of personnel, I'd have killed you already. But many ancestral Dao realm experts of the Dao Palace had lost contact, and the current situation for Dao Palace was also pessimistic. With Wu Mengqian being an ancestral Dao realm expert, no matter how angry Wu Zhejiu was, he couldn't kill her off just yet. He snorted coldly, and with a flash of his palm, the stone ring ancestral artifact appeared in his hand. I won't forgive you so easily. Since you colluded with outsiders, I will make you compensate for all of this personally. I will erase all memories of you and Wu Feng. And in the future, remember, whenever you see Wu Feng, you must kill him. Wu Mengqian was startled and quickly raised her head, saying, Elder! She looked at Wu Zhejiu in panic. The forgotten heavenly Dao, to make her forget all the memories of Wu Feng? This was unacceptable to her, because she still held that man dear in her heart, and she had answers to seek. If she forgot just like that, she would never be at peace in her life. But Wu Zhejiu gave her no chance to resist, as the stone ring in his palm already emitted a powerful heavenly Dao laws, which instantly struck Wu Mengqian. Buzz! The powerful force of forgetfulness made Wu Mengqian's whole body tremble, her gaze becoming dazed and ethereal. She raised her head, slightly opening her mouth, wanting to say something, but she had already forgotten what it was, like a walking corpse, pale as paper. Someone, take her away and transform her properly. Let her understand her identity, Wu Zhejiu ordered. Yes. Soon a man dressed in black stepped forward and took Wu Mengqian away. After handling everything, Wu Zhejiu leaped towards the city of Jinsha, disappearing into the void, and reappearing on top of a sand dune. Greetings, your lordship. Wu Zhejiu slightly bent forward in respect. On the sand dune sat a silhouette, appearing exceptionally towering, like a golden war god, with a powerful aura swirling around, even affecting the surrounding void. The highest ruler of the Dao Palace, the true Hutu, didn't succeed? The silhouette spoke. His voice was distant and ethereal, echoing through the heavens and the earth, exceedingly ancient, as if it belonged to an elder weathered by time, crossing through space-time, endured the vicissitudes of mountains and rivers, rolling in, deeply moving the heart and soul. Forgive me, my lord, we made a miscalculation. Did not expect this person not to be Wu Feng. Even as a late-stage ancestral Dao master, Wu Zhejiu was extremely respectful before Hutu, restraining the arrogance in his being. Not Wu Feng. Hutu's voice suddenly rose. Wu Zhejiu was so overwhelmed by that voice that cold sweat trickled down his spine, only recovering to find his back drenched. He fell to his knees with a thud, pleading, I am incompetent. Please forgive me, my lord. Hutu was immensely powerful. His every word and action seemed integrated with heaven and earth, every sentence representing the heavenly Dao, infeasible to defy. In the face of such a terrifying force, Wu Zhejiu felt incredibly insignificant. He was a late-stage ancestral Dao expert, standing at the pinnacle of cultivation. Within the whole edge-corner airspace there were hardly any mightier than him. Yet, facing Hutu, he still trembled in fear. This was Hutu's strength. Wu Zhejiu composed himself, hurriedly recounting the events in full detail. Having spoken, He kept his head low, not daring to breathe loudly, awaiting his fate quietly. Hutu did not speak, merely pondering. Wu Zhejiu dared not urge, still kneeling there. The process of waiting was excruciating. In Wu Zhejiu's view, it felt as if hundreds of years had passed. Yet in reality, it was just a quarter hour. He is not Wufeng, should be a descendant of Wufeng, also a very special human. Hutu spoke slowly. A special human? Wu Zhejiu was slightly taken aback, not understanding the meaning. If I am not mistaken, he should be Wufeng's grandson, no more than 30 years old. Wu Zhejiu exclaimed in astonishment. How is it possible? How could someone under the age of 30 have such formidable ability? He is in the ancestral Dao realm. How could he step into the ancestral Dao realm before 30? Wu Zhejiu could not believe this fact. Having sparred with the young man earlier, the opponent, though only at mid-stage ancestral Dao cultivation, exerted significant pressure on him. Due to this immense power of the opponent, he didn't linger in battle. He presumed this person to be at least a 1,000-year-old master. How could he be less than 30? When Wufeng led the human race into seclusion, a more powerful and mysterious figure aided him. Wufeng's grandson should have been born then, and through some means eluded the surveillance of the heavenly Dao in Edge Corner airspace. I have a feeling Wufeng's grandson highly likely originates from... Hutu stopped, suddenly not continuing, seemingly pondering something. Who is that mysterious figure? Could there be someone in the human race stronger than Wufeng? Wu Zhejiu asked in amazement. Wufeng, in his eyes, was already remarkably powerful. If not reliant on ancestral artifacts, he would certainly not be Wufeng's match. Even with ancestral artifacts, his chances of victory were slim. Back then Wufeng, with a sword single-handedly stormed Common Valley, slaying many ancestral Dao masters, and that prestige still intimidated him. The human race is never as simple as it appears. That mysterious figure, could it be Father Pu? Wu Zhejiu continued to inquire. No, Father Pu is now insignificant, but that person is more powerful than Father Pu, yet later disappeared. I believe he and Wufeng did something significant. Heavenly Dao. They tampered with the heavenly Dao. If I'm not wrong, the end of the world is their destination. Hutu said. Upon hearing this, Wu Zhejiu's face changed again, saying, The end of the world? Hutu nodded slightly. Wu Zhejiu further questioned, Shouldn't we do something about it? Hutu lifted his head, golden light flickering in his eyes, saying, I have not yet fully merged with the heavenly Dao, currently at a crucial cutoff. I need time, cannot leave. Matters in Edge Corner airspace are under your full control, Wu Zhejiu hesitantly stated. But my lord, currently many races are starting to oppose us, covertly or overtly attacking our people. The situation is becoming dire. They disregard the rules we set. The dynasty we created is on the brink of collapse. They cannot stir waves. After a while, when I emerge from seclusion, then, Hutu's voice turned exceedingly cold and sharp. Everyone will once again bow beneath my feet. A majestic aura surged within him, rolling forth, and suddenly golden formation patterns appeared in the void, all containing immense power of laws belonging to the heavenly Dao. Those formation patterns connected with him, as if merging with his soul. In his fury, even the heavenly Dao was evoked, as if he became the vessel of the heavenly Dao, capable of controlling myriad laws. The might of his fury was terrifying beyond compare. Wu Zhejiu, listening to that rolling voice, had his soul cleansed, gazing reverently. The anxiety in his heart finally eased. His eyes filled with reverence for Hutu. This is the only true God in the world. With Hutu here, no one dares to behave recklessly. In his eyes, any opposing race was merely a clown. After all, being able to severely injure Wufeng back in the day, it was still Lord Hutu's handiwork. Had it not been for Lord Hutu needing to merge Dao, he could even have killed Wufeng. Wu Zhejiu's mood was similarly uplifted by Hutu's domineering presence. The Dao Palace would never perish. Any news on the ancestral artifact fragments I asked you to find? Hutu inquired again. I am incompetent, not yet, Wu Zhejiu responded. You must find the Chaos Realm Tree and Withered Spirit at the end fragments. These two ancestral artifacts are extremely important to me, Hutu stated. Yes, understood, Wu Zhejiu respectfully responded. But at this moment, suddenly a breath-soil glow flashed over, landing beside Wu Zhejiu, then transformed into a phantom. It was an ancestral Dao realm master. Elder. The city of no pretense seems to have the ancestral artifact fragments we've been searching for. What? Wu Zhejiu exclaimed, asking, what do the ancestral artifact fragments look like? The breath soil quickly unfolded into a scene, surprisingly displaying the full view of the city of no pretense. They saw two fragments suspended on the city walls, and Wu Zhejiu was suddenly stunned. The Chaos Realm Tree and Withered Spirit at the end fragments. Wu Zhejiu looked ecstatic. Buzz. A fierce fluctuation vibrated through the void, the power of Hutu rolling forth as if capable of destroying everything. Chaos Realm Tree and Withered Spirit at the end. Hutu was obviously extremely shocked. Never had he imagined that the ancestral artifacts he had sought for so many years would appear just like this. Bring it to me. No matter the cost, make sure you bring it to me. Hutu's voice was full of excitement. These two ancestral artifacts were incredibly important to him, right now at a critical moment. As long as he fused these two artifacts, he would be able to achieve the Supreme Tao. Yes, Wu Zhejiu responded hastily. He also understood the importance of these two ancestral artifacts. Once obtained, Hutu would be able to come forth, and at that time, eliminating those petty thieves would be no trouble at all. Whatever human race, whatever other race cultivators, could all be taken down. Wu Zhejiu immediately set off, vanishing from Xizheng City. Dao Palace's reputation in the Edge Corner airspace was completely tarnished. Wu Zhejiu's plan to kill the cultivators comprehending the Dao outside the city of no pretense in order to combat Wufeng was exposed, angering all the race cultivators. Because those who went to the city of no pretense to comprehend the Dao were mostly elite disciples of various races, and Dao Palace was so ruthless, how could everyone tolerate this? But soon, these cultivators also understood who had saved them that day at the city of no pretense. A human race expert in the ancestral Dao realm. While grateful, they couldn't help but start to question if Dao Palace's propaganda about Wufeng's evil deeds was true. Dao Palace issued a kill order against the human race, sparing none when encountered. As Dao Palace depicted, the human race was the culprit harming all races, using despicable means to kill other race cultivators and then seizing their Dao embryos to grow stronger. Yet the events that occurred at the city of no pretense seemed to suggest otherwise. Dao Palace was actually the culprit intent on destroying all cultivators. Human race experts, through extraordinary means, saved everyone and took them away from that deadly place. Soon, another message came that Dao Palace brought over 20 ancestral Dao realm experts that day, all of whom were repelled by a single human race expert. One person, one blade, slaughtered all of Dao Palace's villains. The image of the human race suddenly rose high. Dao Palace treats our lives as worthless, while human race experts saved all of us. Who exactly is the villain here? We might have wronged the human race. Dao Palace has done so many bad things, the human race might have been framed. Exactly. Dao Palace is using us to hunt the human race. They are misleading us, and the hateful part is that we are aiding their tyranny. Countless cultivators have become enlightened, gradually changing their impressions of the human race. Reflecting on Dao Palace's various negative news, the entire Edge Corner airspace started denouncing Dao Palace. Cultivators were fervent with anger, shouting to overthrow Dao Palace. Since Dao Palace intended to destroy cultivators, fewer have gone to the city of no pretense to comprehend the Dao, fearing they would get linked to troubles again. Of course, there were quite a few cultivators seeking fortune in danger, occupying the territory while cultivators were fewer. But no one noticed the two fragmented ancestral artifacts atop the city of no pretense's walls. A bronze chunk and half a jade piece. Although their location was obvious, the problem was that the ancestral artifact fragments were too ordinary, lacking any spiritual power fluctuations, easily mistaken by the ignorant as ordinary debris of the city of no pretense. Will they really come back? Era asked, lying atop the wall, bored. They will, Xiang Beifei affirmed. He could be certain that the body of these two ancestral artifact fragments was at Dao Palace, and they had been searching for these ancestral artifact fragments constantly. They certainly wouldn't fail to notice. At this moment, an anxious middle-aged man appeared atop the wall, sitting there with every part of his body expressing melancholy. Even his windswept strands of hair seemed to carry whispers of grievance. If they come, are you really going to exchange? Kongqing asked. It's the only way, Xiang Beifei said. They take back their things and he'll reclaim his own. Kongqing whispered, you should know, if an item appears in your spirit gathering book, it must have important significance. Xiang Beifei slightly frowned, saying, I've never mentioned the spirit gathering book to the senior. Spirit gathering book, only the four of them knew. Xiaohe and Era emerged from the spirit gathering book, and Yumong was a mascot but also knew of its existence. Besides this, Xiang Beifei hadn't mentioned the spirit gathering book to anyone else. Outsiders couldn't even see the existence of the spirit gathering book. But you have entered Kongqing, Kongqing said. I entered Kongqing, and the senior knew about the spirit gathering book? Xiang Beifei asked in surprise. Kongqing sighed faintly. Everyone has a Kongqing. I've mentioned it countless times, but no one ever cared. Xiang Beifei couldn't comprehend this sentence. Even so, he didn't probe further, because he had asked countless times before. But Kongqing would always look at him with those resentful eyes, like a secluded maiden feeling abandoned, making him feel guilty. Clearly he hasn't done anything wrong. Yet this guy prefers using such expression to show others. Xiang Beifei also wondered what kind of place Kongqing really was. The combined power of 21 ancestral Dao realm figures with the stone ring ancestral weapon struck above Kongqing. Yet it didn't even stir a speck of dust. Have you ever wondered where the spirit gathering book came from? Kongqing asked. I have thought about it, but even Xiao Mihu doesn't know. Xiang Beifei patted Xiaohe's head. Xiaohe shrugged his shoulders, looking innocent. However, I've previously completed a transaction with the fragment of the Lytian spear. That's how the fragment of the Lytian spear came about, Xiang Beifei said. The current Lytian spear is already inside the Tai Bell. Xiaohe raised his head, adorably tugged Kongqing's hand, and said, Uncle Melancholy, you're so powerful. If the other side cheats, can you help us? He seemed like an innocent child, his voice sweet as he tried to charm Kongqing into joining them with his personality. Kongqing showed a melancholic smile, saying, I'm just a city lord. Shouldn't a city lord command 1,000 troops? Their combat power must be off the charts, Xiaohe said with a chuckle. They didn't believe Kongqing was without strength. Such a massive attack fell, yet the city didn't even bother to move. It wouldn't make sense if the city lord guarding the city had no combat power. Kongqing patted Xiaohe's head, for he also liked this child with a head like a little tiger, saying, I don't know if my combat power is off the charts, but I am just a city lord. I can only assure that you'll be safe within Kongqing. Xiaohe pouted. But actually, having such assurance was enough. The Dao Palace dared not step into the city of no pretense. Even Wu Zhejiu, in the late ancestral Dao stage, did not dare. At this moment, Kongqing slowly raised his head, looking into the distance, saying, They're coming. Xiang Beifei also raised his head, but he found it strange because he hadn't detected the presence of any Dao Palace experts. But after 3 breaths, a twisted fracture appeared in the void 5,000 miles away, and then a figure emerged from the fractured void. It was Wu Zhejiu. Xiang Beifei glanced at Kongqing with some surprise. His perception was already sharp, but he didn't expect Kongqing's perception to be even stronger. He didn't think much of it, for by this time Wu Zhejiu had already stepped closer to the city of no pretense, staring intently at the 2 inconspicuous fragments hanging on the city wall. The urgency was evident in Wu Zhejiu's eyes, and the ancestral artifact fragments emitted a strong allure that made him too excited to contain himself. But he restrained himself, because if he wanted to take the ancestral artifact, he had to enter the city, and he was well aware of the consequences of entering the city. Entering was without exit. Swish! Wu Zhejiu waved his hand, and a figure was pulled out of his sleeve. It was a shivering practitioner from the Vine Dao race, his eyes dazed. Enter the city of no pretense. Integrate those 2 ancestral artifact fragments into your soul, and then commit suicide, Wu Zhejiu commanded. This was the method he could think of. Controlling a practitioner to enter the city of no pretense. Take 2 fragments, and integrate them into the soul, then immediately die. Afterward, they could use the resurrection heavenly way to revive the substitute and retrieve the ancestral artifact fragments. Yes. The practitioner from the Vine Dao race nodded confusedly, preparing to fly toward the city of no pretense. But just halfway there, a ripple vortex suddenly appeared in the void, and the person instantly vanished from the void. Teleportation array runes. Wu Zhejiu became vigilant. A while later, he saw someone sitting at the empty edge of the city wall, watching him. Wu Zhejiu's look was gloomy. Meeting again so soon? Xiang Beifei had already taken down those 2 ancestral artifact fragments, tossing them in his hand. The ancestral artifact fragments emitted a crisp, pleasant crackling sound. It's you, Wu Zhejiu said coldly. What? Surprised. Xiang Beifei retorted. Wu Zhejiu exuded a cold-killing intent. But he didn't act because they had already clashed yesterday, and purely relying on strength. Wu Zhejiu had no way to take down his opponent. The opponent's abilities were truly uncanny, able to hide directly in Kongcheng, almost leaving Wu Zhejiu with no way to dodge. Wu Zhejiu merely watched Xiang Beifei with a sinister look, considering whether the latter knew the origin of the 2 ancestral artifacts. He couldn't speak first, making himself appear too desperate for those fragments. But as he did not speak, Xiang Beifei couldn't be bothered to speak either, casually tossing the 2 ancestral artifact fragments. Then suddenly, he took out the murder-sealing sword and swiftly slashed. Crack! The half-piece of jade was split in 2. Wu Zhejiu's pupils shrank, nearly losing his calm. Those were ancestral artifact fragments. What on earth was this guy doing? Wu Zhejiu forced himself to calm down. He already understood Xiang Beifei's intention. This guy was definitely doing it on purpose. It's impossible he doesn't know these 2 ancestral artifact fragments. What do you want? Wu Zhejiu asked through gritted teeth. 3-legged tripod, sword body, human Dao's ancestral artifact body, giant spirit Dao, forgotten heavenly Dao, another tile. Xiang Beifei didn't waste words, and took out 2 more tiles. Everyone was smart here, so clarifying matters was good. Wu Zhejiu's face instantly darkened. Do you think 2 fragments of ancestral artifacts can exchange for so many things? 2 fragments for 6 things. Wu Zhejiu said coldly. If you think 2 fragments can't exchange for 6 things, then... Xiang Beifei waved the murder-sealing sword once again. Crack! The bronze piece was also split in 2. Thinking it over, he simply slashed the bronze piece again, turning it into 4 pieces. Now it's 6 fragments of the ancestral artifact. I exchange 6 fragments for 6 things. 6 for 6, and no one loses. Xiang Beifei smiled placidly. Do you think others are fools? Wu Zhejiu said sinisterly. He felt as if his intelligence was being mocked by the opponent. This young man was clearly intentionally taunting him. He wished he could directly attack and kill his opponent. Xiang Beifei calmly reassembled the 6 fragments of the ancestral artifact, saying, Whether these 2 fragments can exchange for so many things doesn't depend on me, but on how much you need them. Wu Zhejiu was nearly furious to explosion internally. He indeed needed these 2 ancestral artifact fragments, or rather, his clan leader needed them, and it was related to something very important. But the 6 things Xiang Beifei listed were equally important. 3-legged tripod, sword body, human Dao's ancestral artifact body, giant spirit Dao, forgotten heavenly Dao, and a tile. The giant spirit Dao definitely couldn't be traded. He knew Father Pu's might, and if the giant spirit Dao wasn't in the Dao Palace's hands, Father Pu could live freely in this world, bringing great trouble to the Dao Palace. The forgotten heavenly Dao was even more impossible to let go, being extremely important with powerful combat ability. Losing it would be like cutting off one's own limb. The three-legged tripod was an ancestral artifact controlling the Tao embryo of the human race, and they planned to use it against the human race. The human Tao's ancestral artifact body was even more crucial. They only needed to find the fragments of the human Tao's ancestral artifact to wipe out the human race from this world. As for a tile, he remembered the opponent wielding the power of 4 tiles yesterday. Back then, woofing with 3 tiles alone was a massive trouble for them. If 5 tiles were gathered, what then? The woofing sword body and tiles were of the same logic. Taking the sword body would mean letting woofing return to its peak. These 6 things, by any measure, were unacceptable to Wu Zhejiu. Wu Zhejiu snorted coldly. Though you have the ancestral artifact fragments I want, don't forget, conversely, I also have the ancestral artifact fragments you want. If you think 2 mere fragments can trade for so many things, you're delusional. Whether you're willing to trade or not, I don't really care. After all, those items have been occupied by your Tao Palace for so many years without affecting me. Now that I've collected 79 complete ancestral artifacts from the Common Valley, they're enough for my extravagance. Xiang Beifei remained cool and composed. He clearly wouldn't show how desperately he needed those 6 items. The crux of negotiations was seeing who would first give up their bottom line and make a concession. Wu Zhejiu's gaze was very somber. He had always been weighing things in his mind. Although they seemed like merely 2 pieces of ancestral artifacts, these 2 pieces were extremely important to him. Only with these artifacts could the great enterprise of the Hutu tribe be accomplished. However, he was also a master of meticulous thinking. Being able to survive this long, he naturally wouldn't be led by the nose. Do you really think those things in my possession haven't affected you? The woofing broken sword, the tripod ruling the lifeline of Zhuzhou, the body of the human Tao ancestral artifact. Don't you think I know how badly you wish to have them? If you weren't so eager to obtain these, then why would you use these 2 pieces of ancestral artifact to tempt me? Wu Zhejiu's voice was very cold. He had come to understand that, despite the other party's words claiming those things didn't have an impact, choosing to use pieces of ancestral artifacts for a trade was definitely influential. He then sneered repeatedly. As for those 79 ancestral artifacts, if you could freely wield them, why wouldn't you bring them to deal against me? Let me think. Many ancestral artifacts you've obtained seal heavenly Tao laws that are irrelevant, incapable of restraining us, and yet you can't drive the more powerful artifacts. Xiaohe muttered. He's truly a cunning old fox. As the Grand Elder of the Tao Palace, his intellect and abilities were top-notch, and he was capable of hitting the nail on the head with his words and actions. Yet, Xiang Beifei wasn't so easily intimidated by the opponent. He still calmly stated, "The point is, you came here. If you think little of these 2 pieces of ancestral artifact, you can leave them as you wish." Xiang Beifei decisively put away the 2 pieces of ancestral artifact. "Boy, don't be so conceited. In my eyes, these 2 pieces of ancestral artifact are far less important than those 6 things. I'm not really interested in them at all." Wu Zhejiu snorted and then turned away without looking back, disappearing into the void in an instant with great decisiveness. Yumong exclaimed, "Oh, did he really leave just like that?" Era wondered, "Did we set the price too high? It seems they really don't need these 2 pieces of ancestral artifact, leaving without even bargaining. These fragments don't appear very useful to them." "Not necessarily," Xiang Beifei calmly replied. Even though he couldn't discern the original form of the ancestral artifacts from these pieces, and Wu Zhejiu hadn't shown much interest, he believed Kongqing's words were true. Anything sealed within the spirit-gathering book must be special. This guy was playing the trick of feigning indifference. "So what do we do now?" Xiaohe asked. "Cultivate." Xiang Beifei, on the contrary, was unhurried now, sitting on the city of no pretenses wall and beginning to cultivate. From his encounter with Wu Zhejiu, he realized he had many shortcomings. Being lower in realm was a serious flaw, as he now only possessed mid-stage ancestral Tao realm strength, needing to quickly advance to the late stage of ancestral Tao. 1 day, 2 days. A month passed. During this month, Wu Zhejiu surprisingly hadn't returned. as if he truly didn't care about these pieces of ancestral artifact. Xiang Beifei remained calmly in cultivation, constantly honing the heavenly Tao laws he grasped. Though many heavenly Tao laws were of little use to him, there were quite a few useful ones he still had to master well. What is the relationship between the laws of the heavenly Tao and yin-yang energy? Xiang Beifei took out the Tai Bell and the Yu Divine Steel, sensing the heavenly Tao laws contained within these two ancestral artifacts. These two ancestral artifacts contained many heavenly Tao laws, especially the Tai Bell, which became much more substantial after devouring the Litian Spear and other ancestral artifacts. Various strange and bizarre heavenly Tao laws, like flowering heavenly Tao law, dancing heavenly Tao law, knitting heavenly Tao law, staying awake heavenly Tao law. Looking at these peculiar heavenly Tao laws left Xiang Beifei quite puzzled. He discovered a rather odd phenomenon. These heavenly Tao laws seemed not much different from the Tao embryos he understood. Every race in the Edge Corner airspace was actually cultivating a power of heavenly Tao, and as long as they cultivated this Tao to its utmost, they could perceive the essence of that heavenly Tao, which constituted the ancestral Tao realm. Furthermore, Xiang Beifei also realized that the heavenly Tao laws were quite similar to systems he understood. If I could use yin-yang energy to simulate these systems, could it be possible to simulate the heavenly Tao using yin-yang energy? Xiang Beifei couldn't help but ponder this question. Until now, he could only simulate external forces of heavenly Tao laws, like during his time in the Great Desolate Realm, unable to use yin-yang energy to create heavenly Tao powers, just slightly misleading its powers. If he could entirely simulate his yin-yang energy into heavenly Tao laws, then he could wield all sorts of heavenly Tao laws. In that case, he needn't fear Wu Zhejiu's forgotten heavenly Tao, for he could wield forgotten heavenly Tao. Though this process seemed not simple. You need to merge Tao, Kongqing voiced out. As an idle city lord, he would often sit on the wall, watching Xiang Beifei cultivate. What is merging Tao? Xiang Beifei asked. Merging Tao is to merge the heavenly Tao powers you comprehend with your soul's enlightenment, thus allowing you to master various heavenly Tao without relying on ancestral artifacts. Kongqing explained. There's such a thing? Beyond ancestral Tao, to further advance, one must merge Tao. Once you can merge a heavenly Tao, it signifies the limit of Tao, becoming a true deity of heavenly Tao. Kongqing said. Xiaohe blinked and asked, like the Heavenly Thunder Venerable? The Heavenly Thunder Venerable was a true prodigy of the Thunder Tao race, refining his soul into an ancestral artifact to seal the Thunder Tao laws and simultaneously control all the lightning in the world. But Kongqing shook his head. He doesn't count as merging Tao. His ultimate goal in cultivation is to make his body conform to the Thunder Tao laws, meaning he strives to transform his soul into an ancestral artifact to adapt to the power of the Thunder Tao. True merging Tao is having the heavenly Tao laws adapt to one's soul. Era asked, letting the soul adapt to the Thunder Tao and letting the Thunder Tao adapt to the soul seem no different. After all, they both can control the heavenly Tao's power, right? There's a big difference. It's about who takes the initiative. Making the soul adapt to the Thunder Tao indicates that you choose to let the power of the Thunder Tao take the initiative, meaning you submit to the power of the Thunder Tao. Whereas letting the Thunder Tao adapt to your soul means your soul takes the initiative. Your status is above the Thunder Tao, and the Thunder Tao submits to you. So that's how it is. Xiang Beifei appeared thoughtful. The Heavenly Thunder Venerable chose to submit to the Thunder Tao laws. So everything he does must follow the rules of the heavenly Tao laws. If he loses a finger, he becomes an incomplete ancestral artifact, unable to leave the common valley. If the Thunder Tao laws submitted to the Heavenly Thunder Venerable, the Venerable would not be limited by the power of the common valley, and even missing a finger, he would still be able to leave. So if I want to merge with the Tao, I'll have to make these laws submit first? Xiang Beifei asked. In a certain sense, yes. Kongqing nodded slightly. Xiaohe familiarly climbed onto Kongqing's lap and asked, Uncle Melancholy, have you also merged with the Tao? Merged with the heavenly Tao of melancholy or something? I'm just a city lord, Kongqing said with a wry smile. But you're so powerful. No matter how powerful, I'm still just a city lord. Kongqing smiled wryly again. After a while, he said slowly, what I can be certain of is that your future opponent is already merging with the Tao. Hutu. Yes, he is someone capable of reaching that level. Kongqing said. Xiang Beifei pondered Kongqing's words carefully, then set his eyes on the ancestral artifact. Merging with the Tao means subjugating the power of the heavenly Tao. If Hutu is also merging with the Tao, then he must try it as well. Wu Zhejiu did not leave. He merely pretended to. This time, he continued his close surveillance of the city of no pretense and noticed Xiang Beifei cultivating while sitting on the city wall. However, he didn't get too close, ensuring that Xiang Beifei wouldn't notice him. In fact, Wu Zhejiu very much wanted the 2 ancestral artifact fragments, but the trading conditions proposed by the other party were unacceptable to him, so he chose to walk away directly, pretending to show the other party that he didn't care about the 2 ancestral artifact fragments at all. Besides, now he knew where these 2 lost ancestral artifact fragments were, so there was no reason to worry too much. He just needed to keep an eye on Xiang Beifei, who wouldn't be able to do anything with the ancestral artifact fragments. Didn't get them in hand? Hutu had long been impatient, and his voice seemed to travel across the vast expanse of time and space to reach Wu Zhejiu. These 2 ancestral artifact fragments were extremely important to him. If he weren't at a critical point in his cultivation and unable to act, he would have come personally long ago. Master, I am doing my best to negotiate with the human race thief, but the terms proposed by the other party are impossible to accept. Wu Zhejiu respectfully responded, explaining to Hutu the demands made by Xiang Beifei. He dares to make such outrageous demands. Hutu was clearly very angry too. He had never seen a cultivator daring to negotiate such terms with the Tao Palace, let alone a human race cultivator. Wu Zhejiu said confidently, Master, rest assured, these 2 ancestral artifact fragments are useful to us, but to him, they're just pieces of scrap metal. He can't utilize them, and eventually he will have to compromise. Wu Zhejiu was gambling. He bet that Xiang Beifei would lose patience first and compromise, lowering the stakes and coming to negotiate in person so that he could get the 2 ancestral artifact fragments at the lowest possible cost. I don't care what you do. Get those 2 ancestral artifact fragments as soon as possible, Hutu commanded. Yes, please give me a little more time, Master. We've waited 100,000 years. Waiting a little longer shouldn't matter. Wu Zhejiu replied. All right. I'll be waiting for your news. The powerful presence of Hutu soon dissipated. Wu Zhejiu straightened his posture and turned his gaze again towards the city of no pretense. I refuse to believe you won't retreat. Wu Zhejiu sneered coldly. The ancestral artifact that Xiang Beifei requested was of utmost importance to the human race. He had control over the vital lifeline of the human race. Under these circumstances, just by waiting, the other party was sure to yield first. Wu Zhejiu continued to wait. He monitored Xiang Beifei for a month and saw him cultivating, without suspecting much, assuming he was merely pretending to remain calm. In such negotiations, it was all about who could hold out longer. He thought Xiang Beifei would soon compromise, but then he realized something was amiss, for Xiang Beifei was still calmly cultivating in the city of no pretense. Wu Zhejiu was on the verge of losing his patience. Wait a little longer. He can't possibly hold out forever, Wu Zhejiu forcibly assured himself. But just then, a powerful wave suddenly emanated from the wall of the city of no pretense. Buzz! A terrifyingly powerful aura rippled out like a massive tidal wave, twisting the void. Wu Zhejiu was shocked. Is this ancestral Tao late-stage fluctuation? He drew a sharp breath. The human race guy, did he really break through to the ancestral Tao late stage? How is this possible? It should be known that, according to Hutu's calculations, Wufeng's grandson could not be over 30, and at that young age, stepping into the ancestral Tao mid-stage was likely due to Wufeng's efforts. How could he break through to the ancestral Tao late stage in just 2 short months? Judging by the powerful spiritual power fluctuations, even though he had just stepped into the ancestral Tao late stage, he was already showing signs of surpassing him. Last time, He believed he could firmly suppress Xiang Beifei. But now, it seemed, if they battled again, he probably wouldn't gain any advantage. Damn it! I underestimated. Wu Zhejiu felt more and more uneasy. Initially, he planned to wait for Xiang Beifei to compromise, but this wait had led to the opponent breaking through to the ancestral Dao late stage. No, I can't wait any longer. Wu Zhejiu gritted his teeth in anger. If he continued to wait, who knows, the other might even merge with the Dao soon. He gritted his teeth and appeared once more above the city of no pretense, looking coldly at the young man standing on the city wall. Let's discuss the transaction, Wu Zhejiu said. But Xiang Beifei couldn't care less, continuing his cultivation. Only after fully consolidating his realm after 10 more days did he stretch lazily and say, "Have you thought about the transaction? 6 for 2? Or 6 for 6? He tossed the 2 ancestral artifact fragments in his hand, looking meaningfully at Wu Zhejiu. 2 ancestral artifact fragments, without any power, can't be exchanged for so much. I can only trade you the broken Wufeng sword and the bricks, Wu Zhejiu said, suppressing his inner fury. The value of the ancestral artifact fragments is not in the powers they possess but in the powers their core bodies have. And you need them badly, Xiang Beifei said decisively. Wu Zhejiu huffed coldly. Since you want to play, let's raise the stakes. Hand them over intact, or I'll destroy the human systems of the Tripod Cauldron. You should know what the Tripod Cauldron means to the human race of Zhejiu. If you could kill the human race of Zhejiu with the Tripod Cauldron, you would have done it already. No need to wait till now? Xiang Beifei said. What about your parents then? Wu Zhejiu asked. Wu Zhejiu sneered coldly. Using your parents as leverage, is that enough? Xiang Beifei furrowed his brow. This guy, does he even know about my parents? Don't you want to know your parents' whereabouts? Wu Zhejiu said slowly. Are you so sure that I don't know? Xiang Beifei retorted. If you knew, you wouldn't be staying here, Wu Zhejiu said. I am at least sure they haven't been captured by you, Xiang Beifei calmly responded. If Xiang Tianxing and his comrades were really captured, Wu Zhejiu should have brought it up on the first day, not wait until now. They don't need me to capture them. They've already got their own problems. Wu Zhejiu mocked. Xiang Beifei looked at Wu Zhejiu, falling into silence. He knew where his parents were, but he didn't know what that place really meant. The end of the world. That place the old giant spirit had never mentioned to Xiang Beifei, because he thought Xiang Beifei wasn't strong enough. If you hand over the fragments of the ancestral artifact to me, I can tell you how to find those too. Maybe you can still make it in time to save their lives. Wu Zhejiu sneered. I'm not interested, Xiang Beifei said bluntly. TSK. You don't even care about your parents' life or death? Wu Zhejiu said. They have their reasons for going where they went. Xiang Beifei remained very calm. He didn't want to be led by the nose by the opponent. He had his own grasp of his parents' situation in his heart. 2 fragments of the ancestral artifact, 6 items, if not exchanged. I can throw these 2 fragments into some corner of the Great Desolate Realm. Whether you find them depends on your luck. The Great Desolate Realm is also a vast place, although not as big as the Edge Corner airspace. The existence of heavenly Dao laws greatly limits experts in the ancestral Dao realm. If the ancestral artifact fragments are thrown into a remote corner, it's almost impossible to find them. Wu Zhejiu's expression darkened. At this moment, a horrifying surge suddenly came from the sky, as if a shadow spanned time and space, vibrating out, transforming into a golden glow, exuding supreme majesty in the void. Shwa! 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 With the appearance of the light, tens of thousands of figures floated in mid-air. Looking closely, they were actually humans. These people were all restrained by golden beams of light, with every joint of their bodies seemed to be pierced by strings, becoming marionettes. The expressions on each person's face were twisted by pain, appearing very distressed. Judging from their attire, they were all people from Zhejiu. Xiang Beifei could see the system interface on each of them, but their system interfaces were all shrouded in a gray glow, as if the systems were corroded, and the system's power seemed on the verge of collapse. You understand so much about the ancestral artifact, so you should know what this means. A majestic voice echoed in this void, tyrannical and terrifying. It's Hutu. Xiang Beifei's expression became grave. He thought Wu Zhejiu was already very powerful, but in front of this shadow, Wu Zhejiu seemed insignificant, even small. And the opponent was nothing more than an awareness, not the real body. So powerful. Xiang Beifei admitted he currently had no way to deal with Hutu. He turned his gaze again to the humans bound by the golden glow from Hutu. These humans were only projections. Their real bodies still existed in Jiuzhou. The reason they could be presented here was clearly because Hutu forcibly projected them through the power of the tri-footed cauldron. He could perceive that this was absolutely not something fictional, but was truly existent. The tri-footed cauldron exists in Common Valley, initially used by Taoist Qingde to protect all the people of Jiuzhou, and because of its existence, each person in Jiuzhou has system capabilities. However, after being controlled by the Tao Palace, they began to erode this ancestral artifact with their own power, attempting to interfere with everyone's system. The Tao Sheath protection that the tri-footed cauldron provides to the human race has been eroded by me. Hand over the fragments of the ancestral artifact to me, or these 103,920 people will die. Hutu's voice came through. Wu Zhejiu was suddenly overjoyed. Luo Changbai successfully intervened in the tri-footed cauldron. They had always planned to use the power of the tri-footed cauldron to erode all the people of Jiuzhou, but obviously had not succeeded, yet now it seemed they actually had. Wu Zhejiu immediately looked at Xiang Beifei triumphantly, now holding the lifeline of 100,000 people, making this bargaining chip even greater. Damn, it was Luo Changbai's doing. He really caused a huge mess. Era cursed. The Tao Palace's cracking of the tri-footed cauldron. Last time Xiang Beifei had already discovered the plot of the other side. So when he returned to Jiuzhou, he helped many people reconstruct their systems. But Jiuzhou's population is in the billions. Too many. Reconstructing them would take thousands of years and isn't realistic. So he only reconstructed the systems of some of Jiuzhou's main pillars, leaving the rest alone. Now, it seemed the other side had really found a way. And it was achieved by relying on Jiaoluoluo, who had been counter-controlled. If the systems of these 100,000 people collapse, it would mean that the heavenly Tao laws of the great desolate realm would directly destroy them. 100,000 lives were now laid out in front of Xiang Beifei. Wu Zhejiu sneered. Kid, let me remind you, right now it's only 100,000 lives. In a little while, as more humans get eroded, it will be more than 100,000 lives. Obediently hand over the fragments of the ancestral artifact, or more people will die because of you. I hand over the ancestral weapon fragments to you, but you still won't spare these 100,000 people, so why should I bother? Xiang Beifei said in a deep voice. Kid, I don't have the leisure to waste time with you. If you don't agree, I'll kill one by one right in front of you until you comply. Hutu proclaimed coldly. You kill one, I will eradicate 2 of your tribe. Kill 2, I will eradicate 4. Unless the Hutu tribe stays hidden in Xijing City for a lifetime. Otherwise, whoever comes out, I will slay them. Let's see if you can stop my revenge. Xiang Beifei was also filled with murderous intent. He was never one to suffer a loss. This trade was disadvantageous to him. Even if he agreed, more people would die in the future. Then try it. Hutu's shadow burst into golden light, charging towards one of the Jiuzhou people's systems. That was a young man with a panic-stricken expression, an SR-level system awakener, staring fearfully at his system interface, not understanding why his system suddenly turned pitch black, almost obscuring all information. The black breath was slowly devouring his system. Thoughts drifting, grudges lingering. Only when home can they rest. The city empty, man leaning on the tower. At this moment, a melancholy sigh echoed through the air. Taoist Kongqing had no spiritual power fluctuations, yet his melancholic voice spread far, gently rippling, seemingly causing the surrounding void to become melancholy. Buzz. In the void, the Jiuzhou young man system, which Hutu was erasing, stopped its corrosion, as if an unknown force forcibly suppressed the system's corrosion. Hutu's overpowering might seemed ineffective under Taoist Kongqing's wistful voice. Taoist Kongqing, it's you again. Hutu angrily turned his attention to the middle-aged man in white on the city wall. Taoist Kongqing smiled wryly. I'm just an observer. Since you're an observer, you should mind your own business. Not interfere in this situation, Hutu shouted. Those in the game are confused. Observers are clear. Taoist Kongqing continued to smile wryly. I thought you said you didn't like to meddle. Hutu clearly knew Taoist Kongqing well. Taoist Kongqing shook his head slightly. I never meddled in anyone's game. It's you who brought the game to me. I did not invite you into the game actively. It's that human race thief who chose to set the game here, and you did not refuse him. Hutu shouted. Visitors are guests. I never refuse anyone. You're welcome to visit if you wish. Taoist Kongqing said. Humph. You think I'm a fool? Hutu seemed wary of that ragged city. Though the bricks on the city wall were cracked and gray, he never intended to enter this city. Retreat a step and the horizon is vast. Taoist Kongqing murmured with profound sadness. His voice remained so despondent, making people feel hope is out of reach. Hutu's might suddenly surged, seemingly resisting these eerie sounds. Soon his shadow appeared to dim a bit. Do you really want to intervene in this matter? Hutu asked resentfully. I'm only an observer. Taoist Kongqing still wore a face of melancholy. Hutu's aura restlessly surged again. But after a minute, his aura gradually calmed down and he coldly said to Xiang Beifei, Fine, I'll step back. The tripital cauldron, the sword body, the bricks, the items originally belonging to the human race, I can return them all and I won't touch those 100,000 people. You just need to hand over the 2 intact ancestral weapon fragments to me. They must be complete fragments. I don't want you to use any tricks to break a piece apart. Giant Spirit Tao and Forgotten Heavenly Tao, Hutu would never relent, as the threat Father Pu brought was too great. Hutu would not give himself trouble. Xiang Beifei glanced at Taoist Kongqing in surprise. During this minute, Taoist Kongqing hadn't spoken. He was just constantly sighing, but it seemed his sighing made Hutu wary. But Xiang Beifei didn't hesitate. Bring the Humanity Tao ancestral weapon body as well. That's not part of the deal, Hutu replied coldly. If you don't retrieve the Humanity Tao ancestral weapon fragment, then what's the use of me retrieving the tripital cauldron? You could still use the Humanity Tao ancestral weapon fragment to exterminate us. Do you think I will trade the lives of all people for those 100,000? Xiang Beifei said. Hutu coldly responded, The Humanity Tao ancestral weapon fragment is not in my hands. Otherwise, do you really think your human race would have survived until now? But I can tell you it's at the world's end. As a sign of goodwill in the trade, I can even tell you that your parents are there too. Xiang Beifei couldn't confirm matters regarding the Humanity Tao ancestral weapon. He turned inquiringly towards Taoist Kongqing. Taoist Kongqing smiled helplessly. Agree to it. All right, it's decided then. But I have one more requirement. I need the tripital cauldron's complete fragment as well, Xiang Beifei said. The tripital cauldron is inherently incomplete. Wu Zhejiu scoffed. Years ago, you deliberately cut a small fragment from the tripital cauldron thinking I wouldn't know? Xiang Beifei said. Wu Zhejiu felt quite astonished. At that time, this act was spur of the moment, but very few knew of it. How did this guy find out? Wu Zhejiu sought Hutu's guidance, and Hutu said, Fine, as you wish. We will give you what you want, but don't try any tricks. Xiang Beifei said, First, remove all the protective traps of the ancestral weapon at Common Valley. Then let your cultivators leave Common Valley. If I see any ancestral Tao realm master, any heavenly Tao law, the deal stops. Okay, Hutu said. Xiang Beifei didn't move. He turned to ask the seated Taoist Kongqing, Senior, can you visit near Common Valley? Taoist Kongqing sighed slightly. That place carries too much sorrow. He lamented but didn't refuse. The ragged city slightly trembled and disappeared, reappearing near Common Valley. Xiaohe, go take a look, Xiang Beifei instructed secretly. Understood. Xiaohe immediately took the spirit-gathering book and headed towards Common Valley, always maintaining contact with Xiang Beifei. Hutu indeed played no tricks. He cleared all ancestral Dao realm masters from Common Valley, withdrew those heavenly powers, and the sword body and tripital cauldron were there, unguarded. Wu Zhejiu returned the fragment he cut from the tripital cauldron to Xiang Beifei, and Xiang Beifei threw the copper block fragment to Wu Zhejiu, but he still kept half the jade. In Common Valley, the damaged ancestral weapon, without all fragments, can't be removed, so Xiaohe had to personally bring the ancestral weapon fragments inside first to take this thing out. Xiang Beifei vigilantly watched over from Taoist Kongqing's side. Soon, fierce turbulence resounded from Common Valley, roaring sounds echoing, earth-shattering sounds reverberating out, transmitting strong and fearsome aura. Wufeng and the tripital cauldron had become complete. Buzz! The aura of two ancestral weapons soared into the sky, but vanished swiftly just a moment later. I stored them in the spirit-gathering book, Xiaohe shouted. Good, return first, Xiang Beifei said. Hutu was coldly watching Xiang Beifei and said, You have taken Wufeng and the tripital cauldron. What about the other fragment? What about the bricks? Xiang Beifei said. A faint gray light shimmered in the void, and the fifth brick appeared out of nowhere. Xiang Beifei's eyes lit up. He carefully examined the fifth brick to ensure it was unharmed without any trickery, then brought out the half-jade. I'm an observer, the most reliable observer. Taoist Kongqing smiled wryly. His meaning was clear. He could guarantee Hutu wouldn't act against Xiang Beifei mid-negotiation, preventing any mishaps in the trade. Swish! Swish! The brick and half-jade passed by each other in the air. Xiang Beifei seized the fifth brick. The 5 pieces of stone were finally assembled. Those 5 bricks, Xiang Beifei didn't try them immediately but put them away. After obtaining 2 fragments of the ancestral artifact, Hutu also didn't express anything. Probably because Kongqing was right next to him, he didn't try to do anything against the deal. Xiang Beifei naturally wouldn't stop him. He also understood that the other party was strong, at least stronger than himself, and it would be difficult to retrieve the pieces once they were thrown. Both parties got what they wanted. Kid, we'll meet again. Hutu sneered coldly, took one last look at Xiang Beifei. Then without staying, the light began to blossom in the air, and in an instant, he vanished into the void with Wu Zhejiu. Let's go as well. Kongqing gave a wry smile, and the entire city leaped up, taking Xiang Beifei away from the vicinity of Common Valley, randomly appearing in some void. Only then did Xiang Beifei have time to carefully examine the fifth brick and the Sanzu Ding. He immediately went to check the function of the Sanzu Ding. Currently all its fragments had been collected. This was the crucial ancestral artifact ensuring the survival of the Zhuzhou people in the Great Desolate Realm. Its reliability had to be confirmed. Just as Xiang Beifei touched the Sanzu Ding, he suddenly discovered the yin-yang energy on his body turned into 2 streams of light and merged into the Sanzu Ding. Eh? Xiang Beifei didn't react. The yin-yang energy had followed him ever since his Zhou constellation was unsealed from the spirit-gathering book and had merged with his spiritual power, but unexpectedly, the yin-yang energy took the initiative to leave this time. The yin-yang energy quickly jumped, merged into the Sanzu Ding, and resonated with it. Buzz! A vortex surged within the Sanzu Ding, originally appearing like white mist condensed, but gradually, under Xiang Beifei's spiritual power influence, it turned into 2 breaths, one black and one white. These 2 breaths rotated, chased, and surged according to Xiang Beifei's will, gradually allowing him to perceive all sorts of information. He could connect to everyone through the Sanzu Ding's power and perceive everyone's cultivation progress. All 1.6 billion people in Zhuzhou were under his control. Then, he shifted his gaze to the systems of over 100,000 people corroded by Hutu's power. At this time, Hutu's power was about to destroy their systems. Xiang Beifei quickly transferred his spiritual power over. Whoosh! 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 With the help of the Sanzu Ding, in just an instant, he could reshape these people's systems, then quickly replace them, allowing these people to fully recover. Xiang Beifei carefully examined the Sanzu Ding, analyzing why it could become the key to protecting the Zhuzhou people. Because when he first encountered the Sanzu Ding, it was incomplete, Xiang Beifei couldn't confirm what its heavenly Tao laws were, but now it was different. He found that he could easily manipulate this ancestral artifact, ultimately because the heavenly Tao laws sealed in the Sanzu Ding were the Tao of Yin and Yang. Is this the true Yin-Yang heavenly Tao? Xiang Beifei was also very surprised. The Yin-Yang heavenly Tao inside the Sanzu Ding perfectly aligned with the Yin-Yang aura on his body. Since he was 18, he hadn't had a system, but the cultivation technique he first practiced was the Chaos Yin-Yang formula from the Spirit Gathering book. The Chaos Yin-Yang formula made his spiritual power present a black and white Yin-Yang state during cultivation. The Yin-Yang spiritual power could perfectly align with the cultivation techniques of all system awakeners, meaning that if he wanted to, he could master any system-provided technique without any guidance. He never understood why until now. Tao begets one, one creates two, two creates three, three creates all things. The heavenly Tao laws sealed in the Sanzu Ding were the law of two create three. This meant that this ancestral artifact encompassed all the heavenly forces in this world. Any heavenly Tao power could be mimicked by the Yin-Yang heavenly Tao. Of course, the premise was that the ancestral artifact must have come into contact with this heavenly Tao. Daoist Qingde was once an extremely powerful expert in the Edge Corner airspace, and the heavenly Tao laws he had encountered were naturally countless. Every race had its Tao embryo cultivated, and he marked all these Tao embryos in the ancestral artifact. The Sanzu Ding created the Tao sheath like the Yin-Yang source energy to protect everyone in Zhuzhou. From the moment they were born, the Zhuzhou people were injected with a Tao embryo seed, but at this time the Tao embryo seed had not fully grown. They had to wait until they were complete in all aspects at 18 to begin awakening the Tao embryo. These Tao embryos, although presented as systems, are essentially no different from the Tao embryos cultivated by other races. No wonder Feifei can control the systems of the Zhuzhou people. His ability is essentially the same as that of the Sanzu Ding. Yu Meng suddenly realized. The difference being, each Zhuzhou person can only possess one Tao embryo, but Xiang Beifei has no such limitation. Xiaohe, touching his chin, said, "It's not just Feifei. Maybe Grandpa Xiang and Beifei's father can also control everyone's systems." "But isn't Beifei's father SR level?" Era asked puzzledly. "If he wants to say SR level, then SR level it is. Feifei is still N level. Do you really take him as N level?" Xiaohe said. "True." Era nodded. Since Daoist Qingde controlled the Sanzu Ding to protect everyone, he would definitely think of a way out for his descendants. Yu Meng said, "Isn't that wrong? Since Grandpa Xiang wants the human race to rise, why does he have to give everyone a system? Can't all humans be like Feifei? No need for a system. Just cultivate Yin-Yang energy, and it'll be even faster." But in reality, only Xiang Beifei in the entire Zhuzhou didn't have a system. That's true. Maybe other humans don't have Feifei's constitution? Or maybe Feifei has something special. I remember Grandpa Xiang seems to have a system interface. Could it be that my guess is wrong? Xiaohe couldn't understand this either. They all looked at Xiang Beifei inquisitively. Xiang Beifei remained silent for a moment, then said, "Maybe it's because I have two memories." "Two memories? What's the connection?" Era asked. "Before I was 18, I lived in another world, a world without any spiritual power, no cultivation to speak of, where humans couldn't fly or vanish, and animals couldn't cultivate. That world and the one I'm in now are completely different." Xiang Beifei always believed he was a transmigrant, but the consciousness Grandpa left behind in the skeleton race clearly mentioned that Xiang Beifei is Xiang Beifei, and no matter if there are two memories in his mind, it doesn't matter. The important thing is Xiang Beifei is his grandson. Even Xiang Tianxing mentioned this. Back then, Xiang Tianxing once said that Xiang Beifei's mother perceived Xiang Beifei as not being whole, as if divided, losing a part of himself, so having two memories indicates becoming complete. "What's the relation of these two memories then?" Era asked. "Yin-Yang energy is opposite, and in a way, the two worlds I lived in are also opposite, like Yin and Yang. It's my memory that's split, but perhaps it's also my soul," Xiang Beifei said. Xiaohe exclaimed, "Could it be that precisely because you have two completely different experiences, you are able to align with the Yin-Yang heavenly Tao? Currently, that's the only explanation. My original world represents yin and this world represents yang. Xiang Beifei nodded. So perhaps his father didn't have this yin-yang ability, nor his grandfather. This ability might have been tailor-made for him by his grandfather. Xiaohe looked at Xiang Beifei, muttering, I thought your skin would turn half black and half white. Xiang Beifei chuckled. Yumong asked in confusion, Then what's the use of having the tripod now? Yeah. You've long been able to control other heavenly Daos, haven't you? Era said. I can't control other heavenly Daos. I can only control the Dao embryo like those E-tribe people cultivate. If I involve myself, then I can control. But what the E-tribe people cultivate is just the Dao embryo, not the heavenly Dao. Xiang Beifei looked at the simple and atmospheric tripod before him and slowly placed his hand on it. But maybe now it's different. He slapped the tripod, and then a wave burst out again, swirling into his hand, gradually forming a vortex in his palm. Hey? This vortex's aura seems like the transmission heavenly Dao, Xiaohe exclaimed. Xiang Beifei didn't even touch the Tai bell. Yet he wielded the power of the transmission heavenly Dao. Can you utilize the yin-yang power of the tripod to wield the power of the transmission heavenly Dao? Xiaohe asked in surprise. Yes, Xiang Beifei replied. Era interjected. Then why are we looking for ancestral artifacts at all? Why not just create one using yin-yang energy? Yumong added excitedly. Yeah. Era can control all the wood, and Feifei can create a heavenly Dao for me to control all the wood, including controlling Era, so he can't bully me anymore. Get lost. Era glared at Yumong, then raised a hand, making a mess of the green leaves on Yumong's head. Xiaohe said, If we can create a heavenly Dao, can't we also create the giant spirit Dao? Not create, simulate. Xiang Beifei corrected. What's the difference? Yumong asked. Heavenly Dao is already born. The only way to harness them is through the corresponding ancestral artifacts. But with the tripod, I can use its yin-yang energy to temporarily connect to the heavenly Dao pervading this world, thereby wielding its power. Xiang Beifei explained. This means that he can only simulate control of the heavenly Dao present in this world. If it doesn't exist here, then it's useless. The giant spirit Dao was sealed by the Dao Palace and doesn't exist in this world. But even so, this ability is incredibly defiant. As long as Xiang Beifei wields it properly, he could also utilize the forgetting and 10 not complete one heavenly Daos that Wu Zhejiu employed. Xijing City. The void rippled. Hutu couldn't conceal the joy in his heart. How many years? Finally obtained the ancestral artifact fragment. Hutu was very excited, looking at the two ancestral artifacts before him. This was a bronze tree, more than a foot tall, with 9 curled branches, but all of them drooped, as if they lost vitality and couldn't grow upwards. On each branch stood a bronze bird sculpture, 9 in total, looking lifelike. The roots were gnarled, with tendrils stretching from thick to thin, connecting into the void. The entire bronze tree exuded an ancient, archaic aura, appearing grand and imposing. At the end of the 3rd branch there was a gap, as if someone had broken it off. Hutu looked at this tree, his gaze falling on the gap, then took out the copper piece he obtained from Xiang Beifei. Chaos Realm Tree. Finally complete. Hutu sighed in his heart. For thousands of years, he had been searching for this ancestral artifact's fragment, imagining countless times but never finding it. The shape of the fragment even etched deeply in his mind, so that he recognized it instantly when he saw the piece from the city of no pretense. The Chaos Realm Tree is a very powerful ancestral artifact, also known as the Tree of Life. Dao begets 1, 1 creates 2, 2 creates 3, 3 creates all things. The Chaos Realm Tree seals the law of 3 creates all things. Congratulations to the Lord on mastering the Tree of Life. Wu Zhejiu was also very excited. The importance of this tree couldn't be clearer to him. 3 creates all things means this Chaos Realm Tree can be used to master all things in the world, whether trees, flowers, sunshine, breath, soil, ruishui. even including spiritual power, air, space. Even the mustard seed and palm that only humans can control, the refined iron controlled by the Rushu tribe, the Rueshui only controlled by the weak water race. All things in the world can be controlled by the tree of life. Ha ha ha. 3 creates all things. That kid will never realize what he handed over to me. Hutu laughed proudly. This deal was a huge gain. Having made the tree of life complete as an ancestral artifact, then capturing a human expert, it won't matter which heavenly Tao restrains them. He could force them to reveal all secrets through the tree of life. With the complete tree of life ancestral artifact, he is the ruler of all things. Beyond the heavenly Tao and ancestral artifacts, all things must obey his command. I'm eager to deal with that kid now. Hutu laughed, immediately merging the bronze fragment into the gap of the tree of life. Boom! The previously drooping branches of the bronze tree suddenly stood up gradually, began to straighten, and various bronze leaves grew on the branches. The most peculiar thing was that the 9 birds standing on the tree of life suddenly came to life, blazing in fiery flames, spreading their wings, letting out roars. Buzz! All things in the world seemed to be enveloped by their cries, resonating with and obeying their calls. The people of the Hutu tribe, although they control the entire edge corner airspace, are not omnipotent. There are still many things in this world they cannot control. For example, mustard seed and palm, Rueshui River, refined iron, Genmu, and so on. For the cultivators of the Hutu tribe, what they can control is only the breath soil. But with the tree of life, it means they can control anything, including the refined iron of Rushu city. 100,000 years ago, during that battle, although the Rushu tribe was defeated, the Rushu city sealed itself off. Through the mighty power of Rushu, the belongings of the Rushu tribe were all locked away, something even the Hutu couldn't forcibly break open. But now, looking at it, Rushu city is already theirs for the taking. Hutu gazes at the bronze tree, his heart surging with excitement. To control all things is equal to controlling the world. This is his first step to complete dominance over the world. Master, and the withered spirit at the end. Wu Zhejiu respectfully reminded. The withered spirit at the end is the second fragment obtained from Xiang Beifei. Hutu refocused his gaze on that half-piece of jade. With a wave of his hand, a pure white jade appeared in his palm. The jade emitted a radiant white light, gentle and harmonious, each ray pulsating as if containing an endless world. With the withered spirit at the end, I can accomplish that task at the end of the world. Hutu sneered, then joined the 2 halves of the jade together. Crack! The gentle brilliance instantly bloomed, shining upon Hutu. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and felt the speed of his syncretizing Tao accelerate significantly. After a moment, he abruptly opened his eyes. Boom! The aura around him was even stronger than before. Congratulations, Master, on rising to another level. Wu Zhejiu was also thrilled, bowing down to the ground. Ha ha ha, this is the withered spirit at the end, eternal and infinite power. Ha ha ha, consider this your reward. Hutu waved his hand, and the brilliance from the jade also fell upon Wu Zhejiu, who was overjoyed to find his spirit becoming more solid under the light. Just this single ray of light increased his power by a full half. You can now attempt merging Tao as well. Merge the 10 not complete one with the forgotten heavenly Tao. Hutu said. Thank you, Master, for your grace. Wu Zhejiu excitedly bowed in gratitude. Merging Tao is the final stage of the ancestral Tao. He had been at the late stage of ancestral Tao for tens of thousands of years without being able to integrate the heavenly Tao into his spirit. But with the brilliance of the withered spirit at the end, he could now begin to merge Tao. Wu Zhejiu tried to calm himself down, and after a moment, he respectfully asked, Master, now that we have the tree of life, what should we do next? Next, we naturally seek. 1 creates 2, and 2 creates 3. Only by finding these 2 heavenly Tao can we cultivate the ultimate Tao, Hutu said slowly. Xiang Beifei felt the power of the 3-legged cauldron, and the more he pondered on the heavenly Tao laws of the 3-legged cauldron, the more wondrous it seemed to him. Strange, why do I always feel something is amiss about the ability of that bronze fragment? Is it my imagination? Xiang Beifei couldn't help but say. It's not your imagination. Kongqing, who had been watching Xiang Beifei cultivate, spoke up. Senior knows what I'm about to say? Xiang Beifei turned his head to ask. Kongqing smiled wistfully. The heavenly Tao laws sealed within that bronze piece are very formidable. Xiang Beifei was stunned. Senior has long known the origin of the bronze piece? Ancestral artifact Chaos Realm Tree, also called the Tree of Life, a very special ancestral artifact, which I have seen before, Kongqing said faintly. Xiaohe asked, the Tree of Life, what kind of power does it have? It can control all things. With it, anything existing in this world falls within its range of control, Kongqing said with a bitter smile. Xiaohe's eyes widened. Huh? With such incredible power, why didn't Uncle Kong tell us? Kongqing said plaintively. You never asked. Xiang Beifei. Xiaohe. Then why did Uncle Melancholy not stop us from trading, but rather let us agree? Xiaohe asked again. Because in this transaction, it was clear you're on the winning side. Dragging it out is not wise. Kongqing smiled helplessly, and then explained gradually. Tao begets one, one creates two, two creates three, three creates all things. Each phrase represents a heavenly Tao law, the most primal heavenly Tao, also the most powerful. Tao begets one, the law of all heavenly Tao. Possessing it allows the creation of various heavenly Taos by one's own desires. All existing heavenly Tao laws originate from this primal Tao. One creates two is the first heavenly Tao created, which can alter all existing heavenly Taos, forcibly changing the capabilities of each heavenly Tao law. Two creates three uses the origin energy of yin and yang to simulate all existing heavenly Taos. It cannot alter the laws but can simulate various heavenly Tao laws. Three creates all things is the manipulation of all things created by heavenly Tao laws. All creatures, races, including humans, are created by heavenly Tao laws. Mastering this law allows one to control all things. These four heavenly Tao laws are the most primal, hence the most powerful. Controlled alone, one can rule the realm, and controlling all four makes one the master of Tao, and the supreme ruler of this world. Kongqing used the simplest language to explain the power of the four heavenly Tao laws. So that's how it is. Xiang Beifei realized, Tao begets one, one creates two, two creates three, and three creates all things. When he was with the skeleton race, he had heard this phrase from his grandfather, but he never thought about its relationship with the heavenly Tao laws. It is only now that he understands that this phrase is actually the most primitive of the heavenly Tao laws. Xiaohe exclaimed in surprise. So, Hutu controls three creates all things, and we control two creates three? That's right. In the war that happened 100,000 years ago, although the Hutu tribe became the biggest winner for this world without obtaining the four heavenly Taos, they are not the true rulers and cannot become the supreme dominators of this world. He is like a false king in name only, seemingly powerful and invincible, but in reality, it's just a facade. To completely control this world, one must at least possess one of the four heavenly Tao laws. Hutu is very eager to obtain these four ultimate heavenly Tao laws, but he is unable to. It's interesting to say, he only knows that the Tree of Life seals the fourth heavenly Tao law, but he doesn't know that the third law is actually sealed within the three-legged cauldron. Kongqing smiled wryly. He's occupied the three-legged cauldron for so long and didn't know? How foolish, Era said. Because the three-legged cauldron is incomplete. An incomplete ancestral artifact has uncertain seals. In the beginning, Xiang Beifei possessed the Chaos Origin Qi, but he also did not perceive the relationship between the Chaos Origin Qi and the three-legged cauldron. Indeed, he probably just regarded the three-legged cauldron as the Tao Sheath law to protect the human race, thus overlooking the essence of this ancestral artifact. Three creates all things is certainly powerful, but compared to two creates three, it is slightly inferior. Although it can control all things, the existence of all things still needs to be constrained by the heavenly Tao. Kongqing said. Xiaohe's eyes lit up with a mischievous smile. So this guy picked up sesame seeds and lost a watermelon? Pretty much, if he knew that the 2 creates 3 heavenly Tao law was sealed within the 3-legged cauldron, he definitely wouldn't cling to the tree of life with such glee, which is why I asked you to trade as soon as possible. Kongqing said worriedly. Ha ha ha. That's fantastic. I love watching others suffer while we get a huge bargain. Xiaohe laughed happily, his eyes squinting into slits. After a moment, Xiaohe asked, by the way, Uncle Melancholy, where are the 2 ultimate laws, Tao begets 1, and 1 creates 2 located? Kongqing said, I only know that Tao begets 1 is at the end of the world, but I am unclear about 1 creates 2. The end of the world. Again, it's the end of the world. Where at the end of the world is Tao begets 1? Why is it called the end of the world? Xiang Beifei asked. The end is the answer of the world. It is both the starting point and the end point of the world. When you are there, you are not there, and when you are not there, you must be there. Kongqing said softly. When he spoke of these things, his voice was elusive, like a charlatan, leaving everyone bewildered. Xiaohe said, Uncle Melancholy, can you explain it more clearly? This is the clearest explanation. Kongqing smiled wryly. Xiaohe pouted. Xiang Beifei became increasingly curious about the end of the world. This place seemed to be a must-have for Hutu, so what exactly was Xiang Tianxing doing? Xiang Beifei couldn't figure out the answer to this question. Yumong, standing at the side, asked, and what about the other half of the jade? Uncle Melancholy, do you know their origin? Withered spirit at the end. Kongqing said. What's that? Xiang Beifei asked. Kongqing was silent for a moment, then said, the end of the world is very special. Various strange things live there, and it's hard to say whether they are truly living beings. Without great power, it's impossible to venture into that region, and the withered spirit at the end ensures unhindered passage at the world's end. Ah, Uncle Melancholy, you didn't tell us that, Xiaohe said. Compared to that, I consider the things you've acquired to be more useful. Kongqing said. Wufeng, 5 pieces of stone, 3-legged cauldron. These indeed are, for Xiang Beifei, the most precious possessions at the moment. Xiaohe rubbed his hands eagerly. Then let's try our luck at the end of the world next. I don't want you going to the end of the world. Kongqing said softly. Why don't you want us to go there, senior? Xiang Beifei asked. Kongqing shook his head. Does the senior not want to tell us? Xiang Beifei asked. It's not that I'm unwilling, but rather I don't know how to say it. I am merely an observer of this world. I'll say what I can say, but what I don't know how to say, I simply don't. I don't like trouble finding me. Kongqing said bitterly. Uncle Melancholy is so formidable, who would dare to trouble Uncle Melancholy? Is there really someone stronger than Uncle Melancholy in this world? I don't believe it. Xiaohe shook Kongqing's arm naively and adorably, trying to act cute with his sweet appearance. Kongqing helplessly patted Xiaohe's head with a wry smile. Don't flatter me, you little devil. You're so smart. You already know the answer. Xiaohe stuck out his tongue and laughed. Not necessarily, Hutu is so mighty, yet he doesn't dare enter Uncle Melancholy's city. I've always thought Uncle Melancholy is invincible in the world. He praised with a straight face. No matter how strong, I am still an observer. Kongqing sighed. Xiang Beifei thoughtfully recalled Kongqing's words and said, Since Senior is an observer, why are you stopping me from going to the end of the world? Kongqing helplessly shook his head, appearing unwilling to answer this question. The body of the human Tao ancestral artifact is there, and my parents are there too. Senior should know, I am definitely going there. Xiang Beifei said. Kongqing said, Before you go, you'd better merge with the Tao first. That place is a chaotic area of danger. Without the heavenly Tao laws, you can't take a single step. How chaotic is it? Because of the existence of heavenly Tao laws, we can live in this place. But that place at the end of the world is a place without heavenly Tao laws. You need to create laws, or rather, you need to walk in accordance with the laws. When you yourself have merged with the heavenly Tao laws, Only then do you have the qualification to go there. Kongqing explained. Xiang Beifei nodded thoughtfully. Xiang Beifei did not continue to ask Kongqing more questions, because he knew that his urgent priority was to merge with the Tao. Merging with Tao is not a simple task, because merging with Tao requires subduing the heavenly Tao laws and placing oneself above them, integrating them into one's being. This is a very difficult process, as it requires the heavenly Tao laws to recognize oneself, which is extremely challenging. The first heavenly Tao law Xiang Beifei needs to merge with is the 2 creates 3 law. He only relied on the ancestral artifact, the 3-legged cauldron, to manifest this heavenly Tao law, but he has not yet integrated this heavenly Tao law into his being. Merging with Tao means that the heavenly Tao must align with oneself. Xiang Beifei looked at the chaos yin-yang qi in front of him, recalling Kongqing's words, and then focused all his attention on the chaos origin qi. The chaos origin qi was gradually rotating and flowing, and it could move according to his will. As long as he wanted, he could immediately simulate a heavenly Tao law. But he quickly discovered that although the 3-legged cauldron did not reject him and allowed him to use this heavenly Tao, every time he used this heavenly Tao, he felt like he was adapting to the cauldron's aura, instead of the cauldron adapting to his aura. Xiang Beifei was well aware that this process did not belong to merging with Tao, because when he used the heavenly Tao, he relied on the ancestral artifact as support, and he needed to manage to use the heavenly Tao directly without relying on the ancestral artifact. Only then could it be considered true merging with Tao. Without relying on the ancestral artifact, how can one perform the corresponding heavenly Tao? Xiang Beifei couldn't help but ponder. The laws of heavenly Tao are invisible and intangible, yet omnipresent. They are like the air, unseen and untouchable, but indeed affecting the entire world. Every cultivator has their own Tao embryo, and the Tao embryo they cultivate is a kind of heavenly Tao law, albeit in its initial stage. Without this heavenly Tao law, the Tao embryo cannot be cultivated. It's like the leisure system. If the leisure heavenly Tao doesn't exist, everyone in this world would have to hustle and bustle constantly, and there wouldn't be powerful idle experts like Elder Luo. However, no matter which cultivator it is, they all act in accordance with the laws of heavenly Tao. To achieve merging Tao, one must make the laws of heavenly Tao act according to one's will. Yin and Yang chaos begins with 2 energies. For all things with Yin there must be Yang. Life and death, cold and heat, day and night, light and darkness intertwined. Xiang Beifei pondered deeply over the Tao of Yin and Yang, from up and down to front and back, from large and small to light and heavy. Involuntarily, he searched the Yin and Yang around him, seeing white and black, fast and slow, far and near, thick and thin, strong and weak. This world never has a singular entity, because with the Yin-Yang heavenly Tao, there will surely be various opposing existences. Yet, every entity is relative, just like large and small, light and dark, far and near, judged based on human perception, rather than predetermined by nature. For example, Xiang Beifei is giant relative to an ant, yet minuscule compared to the body of the giant spirit race, and this enormous body of the giant spirit race is also tiny relative to the entire heaven and earth. There's never an absolute large, nor an absolute small. Various relational perceptions determine Yin and Yang. Therefore, the boundaries of Yin and Yang do not exist fixedly, but are determined by human perception. Understanding this point, Xiang Beifei suddenly saw the light. Yin and Yang need not be judged by heavenly Tao rules. The Yin and Yang one recognizes can also be a part of heavenly Tao rules. He can become the larger side or be a part of the smaller. He can be large or small, can be Yin or Yang. This is to let the heavenly Tao laws of Yin and Yang be defined by oneself, to master Yin and Yang, rather than be mastered by Yin and Yang. Xiang Beifei gained clarity in his mind. He carefully perceived the Yin and Yang he understood, and the spiritual power on his body started surging rapidly. Gradually, everywhere he gazed he could see various subtle differences. There is no absolute Yin nor absolute Yang. With just a thought, all things can be Yin or Yang in his eyes. There are no absolutes of large, nor absolutes of small, no absolute strength, nor absolute weakness. The end of Yin and Yang is oneself. By using oneself as a benchmark for Yin and Yang, The yin and yang of the world are held in one's hands. Xiang Beifei gradually understood the Tao of yin and yang. The yin-yang laws of heaven and earth began to manifest, drawn by his spiritual power and transferred onto him. This is merging Tao. Earth justice, Xin Xiang. 3 cities emerging in the void, standing silently. They are interconnected, forming a common entity. Currently, these 3 cities have been closed off, with only the Hutu tribe's members and no other race's cultivators. Before dealing with Wu Feng's grandson, they dared not wander freely in Edge Corner airspace, fearing accidentally getting slain. Yet, this lifestyle is also very stifling for them. The former Hutu tribe was highly revered wherever they went, a noble existence, surrounded by stars, countless cultivators showing them great courtesy, as if they were nobles. But now they are like homeless dogs, trapped inside 3 cities. Only slightly stronger cultivators dare venture out to gather intelligence. Edge Corner airspace is our domain. Reclaiming the glory of the Hutu tribe is a duty. Damn it! Damn it! Once the Earth God Master achieves grand cultivation, he will certainly settle blood debts with those filthy humans. These lowly humans are audacious enough to rebel. I must show them how to write the word death. Yes, only by killing all humans can our pent-up grievances be alleviated. Many members of the Hutu tribe are burning with rage. In their eyes, this world belongs to them. Humans do not deserve to live in this world. But now they can only rage impotently, for the Earth God has ordered, strictly prohibiting Hutu tribe members from leaving the cities at will. The present Hutu tribe, experts of ancestral Tao realm, have already been killed by Xiang Beifei, leaving only about 100, and even those ancestral Tao realm experts are unsettled. Thus they anxiously passed several months, waiting for the Earth God Master to return, and 3 months later, the silence in the void was finally broken. Buzz! A tremor spread over a radius of 10,000 miles. A powerful aura, like the arrival of a war god, compelled all creatures to bow down in worship. In the void, the breath, soil, spiritual power, fabric, hair, paper, everything capable of existing trembled fearfully, becoming anxious, as though welcoming their king. The king standing in the void, shining with dazzling light. Hutu Earth God. Ha ha ha. This is the power of 3 creates all things. Hutu was filled with ecstatic joy. He has achieved merging Tao. 3 creates all things. This heavenly Tao law has successfully merged into his body, fused with his soul, and now he is the very law of this heavenly Tao. In other words, he is the master of all things. As long as something exists in this world, including cultivators, it is under his control. This power is actually so terrifying. The Hutu tribe was stunned. The Earth God has successfully merged Tao and become the master of all things. Hail, Master! All the cultivators of the Hutu tribe excitedly bowed down to that supreme figure in the void. Under the authority of this supreme God King, they had no thoughts of resistance. The Earth God before them was not only their master, but the master of all things in the world. Hutu rose from the void. He had been cultivating arduously for so many years, and now he finally emerged. Buzz! With a wave of his hand, the winds and clouds in the void suddenly changed dramatically. The terrifying tide surged, spreading in all directions, and all things in the world under this aura couldn't help but bow down in submission. That is their king, their master, their true God. Nothing dares to defy the power of the world's master. Hutu merges with Tao and all things worship. This is the strength of 3 creates all things. Wu Zhejiu also awoke from his joy, excitedly saying, Master, now that you've successfully merged with Tao, doesn't it mean you can dominate everything, including the human race? Hutu sneered, saying, The human race? Ha! Mere ants. He raised his hand. Buzz! Stars shifted around them. The void seemed distorted, and violent energy rapidly surged. In just an instant, they seemed to traverse boundless space, arriving in a desolate void. So you were hiding here. No wonder I couldn't find you. Your hiding skills are quite something. Hutu sneered at the void. Extremity Abyss. Once, the human race struggled to survive in this place, not daring to go out, unable to be self-sufficient, barely surviving in the cracks and on the brink of extinction. However, after Xiang Beifei arrived, the Extremity Abyss went through a major transformation, experiencing an earth-shattering change. Everywhere, there were houses and fortresses formed by floating clouds condensed by the mustard seed and palm, and people lived safely in the void, no longer living in fear and trepidation. Human King Xiang Beifei brought hope and dawn to everyone, and in recent years the Extremity Abyss has been developing rapidly. With Xiang Beifei's Dao Embryo's guidance, many outstanding young human race members have continuously broken through to stronger realms. Up to now, there are more than 50 in the Immortal Realm in the human race, with over 30 in the Ascension Realm and Inquiry Dao Realm, and there are the 2 Ancestral Dao Realm Masters, Fu Yuzi and Luo Shanyu, stationed. The human race is now advancing towards prosperity. When Xiang Beifei is not around, Fu Yuzi and Luo Shanyu serve as the guardians of the Extremity Abyss, managing the last piece of untainted land for the human race in an orderly manner. Luo Shanyu was patrolling the Extremity Abyss, checking every fortress's formation to ensure everything was safe and sound. He was just about to breathe a sigh of relief, but at that moment, he suddenly felt something amiss, a forceful aura that seemed to come from nowhere, and this aura was supreme, making his very soul tremble slightly. What's going on? Is the human king back? Luo Shanyu looked up. Only Xiang Beifei could give him such a feeling of submission. Because Xiang Beifei is the king and leader of the human race, Luo Shanyu, as the human king's loyal guardian, has the aura of the human king imprinted on his soul, and he only obeys the commands of the human king. But this sudden aura felt completely different from Xiang Beifei. Elder Luo, what's this aura? Fu Yuzi's figure also appeared here, and like Luo Shanyu, he too felt the unprecedented sense of submission. Not sure, it doesn't seem to be the human king. Luo Shanyu shook his head. Could it be Taoist Qingda? Fu Yuzi wondered. No, this fluctuation is not something we know. Definitely not the 3 generations of that family. Luo Shanyu's expression was very grave. The aura of the 3 generations of Taoist Qingda he knew all too well. This 4th aura appearing now that could make them feel submission was completely different. And at this moment, a thunderous voice suddenly echoed throughout the Extremity Abyss. Lowly human race, when you see me, will you not kneel down? The sound waves rolled, echoing in everyone's mind, making everyone's souls tremble, inducing an irresistible sense of dominion. Everyone in the Extremity Abyss raised their heads in horror, stopped what they were doing, and looked around in trembling fear. This voice made them all become fearful, not daring to resist, as if it was the supreme master in their hearts, the ruler who commanded them. Dao Palace. Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi's faces both changed dramatically. Rumble. A terrifying fluctuation transmitted from the space outside Floating Cloud City, and all the mustard seed and palms suddenly began to collapse, as if unable to withstand this authoritative aura, becoming fragmentary and unable to support anyone. Not only the mustard seed and palm, but everything in the Extremity Abyss was affected by this fluctuation. Crops and plants bowed down to the ground, trees and houses shivered, developing cracks, and even the drinking water stopped flowing, as if afraid to move without orders. The heavenly Tao created all things could not withstand this supreme will of the Master. Are these Tao Palace people? How did they find this place? Luo Shanyu was shocked. It should be known that Xiang Beifei used many powerful methods to protect the Extremity Abyss, including various formations targeting the Tao Palace's methods, and even many powerful ancestral artifacts to guard, almost blocking any means the Tao Palace could use to find it. But to their astonishment, they were still found by the Tao Palace. And at this moment, Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi, the 2 human race ancestral Tao realm masters, quickly realized a fact. The formations guarding Floating Cloud City had somehow changed allegiance. They were no longer under their control but submitted to that master's will, willingly controlled by the other party. Bang! A mighty figure appeared in the void, this shadow seemingly tearing open a crack in the void, with hundreds of figures charging through the twisted void fissure, stepping into Floating Cloud City. Upon closer inspection, These figures were indeed the cultivators of the Hutu tribe. Moreover, every single one of them was terrifyingly powerful, all in the Ascension realm and ancestral Tao realm. Despicable human race! Your demise has come. Wu Zhejiu laughed mockingly. Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi exchanged a glance, and their hearts sank. Protect the human race. Luo Shanyu gritted his teeth and shouted softly. As the two ancestral Tao realm masters protecting the human race, Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi immediately surged with powerful momentum, the ancestral Tao realm spiritual power rolling over their bodies, preparing to resist these foreign invaders. Do you dare defy my will? In the void, Hutu's figure glittered like starlight, standing there as if he was the focal point of the world. Everything in the world seemed to center around him, and his every thought and instruction was irresistible. Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi began to tremble all over, knowing that the Hutu before them was from the Tao Palace, there to destroy the human race. But inexplicably, when Hutu spoke, they couldn't muster any thoughts of resistance. This was the command of the absolute master of the world, and they had to follow the master's will and obey his every command. Are you the only two ancestral Tao realm masters left in the human race? Hutu looked down at Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi, then smiled faintly. You two defy my will, then commit suicide to atone for your sins. Commit suicide to atone for your sins. Commit suicide to atone for your sins. These four words echoed continuously in Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi's minds, assaulting their will. They were horrified to find they couldn't stop this terrifying thought from spreading. Gradually, they chose to submit, to follow Hutu's will, to choose death. Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi were both masters at the ancestral Tao realm. To avoid being controlled, Xiang Beifei even placed a powerful protective force on them, ensuring that even if they were captured, they wouldn't fall under control. Yet under Hutu's resounding voice, all their restrictions failed, or rather, these restrictions were overtaken by Hutu and totally ineffective against him. Hutu, having mastered three creates all things, and assimilated this heavenly Tao, essentially controlled all the objects created by heavenly Tao in the world, naturally including all kinds of restrictions. He was the absolute creator. Block it! We must block this thought. Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi felt their hearts sink to the bottom. They were horrified, wanting to prevent this thought from being born. But Hutu's voice echoed in their minds, making it impossible to stop. All the spiritual power in their bodies rose uncontrollably, beginning to tear apart their own souls, preparing to end their lives. Hutu stood atop floating Cloud City, looking down at Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi like an emperor bestowing death upon his subjects, and his subjects were powerless to resist. Hutu sneered at the other panicked humans, saying, "As for you, kill each other." His voice reached everyone's ears like an unquestionable imperial edict. The humans from the Kangji Abyss, after hearing this command, irresistibly drew their weapons and aimed them at their fellow humans. Kill! I'll kill you! These humans went mad, accepting Hutu's command. Their only thought was how to kill their own people, for the Creator's order could not be defied. Boom! An immortal realm human cultivator directly twisted off the head of another expert at the Heavenly Connection realm, blood splattering. The human at the Heavenly Connection realm was utterly unable to resist and was beheaded. After killing his Heavenly Connection realm companion, the immortal realm elder turned and struck another human elder of the same realm. The power of the immortal realm was too formidable, and most here were ordinary people, unable to endure the immortal level slaughter. Yet the immortal realm elder hadn't had time to catch his breath before an Inquiry Tao realm elder rushed over and sliced the immortal realm elder in half. The entire Kangji Abyss fell into chaos, becoming a hell on earth. The more powerful humans followed the Creator's command to kill the less powerful, and in the blink of an eye, their blood stained the mustard seed in palm red. Screams, the cries of children, one helpless human after another perished at the hands of their own, even 5-year-olds strangling their companions, trying to choke them to death. Killing one's own, self-destruction, isn't it splendid? Hutu laughed triumphantly. With this power, he could destroy whatever he wished and kill whoever he wanted, and they couldn't live. No matter where the human race was or how they tried to protect themselves, they couldn't escape his perception. Master is wise. All of the human race must die. Ha ha ha. Wu Zhejiu bowed, looking at the terrified humans with a mocking expression. The Tao Palace had been hunting the human race, never succeeding, and now it was time to annihilate them. Meanwhile, on the other side, the spiritual power in Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi had become violent, as they prepared to self-destruct. The self-destruction of two masters in the ancestral Tao realm would be utterly terrifying. The human race couldn't possibly survive such powerful explosions. All the humans in the Kangji Abyss were plunged into despair. For years, they had been hiding, striving to survive every pursuit, seeing all sorts of means, but never imagining that they would end their lives in this way. Boom! A massive explosion sounded. Their souls of Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi blew apart, with terrifying ripples spreading out. But just at this moment, buzz! An invisible ripple spread over, permeating around. Everything between heaven and earth seemed to stop. The wind stopped, the rain ceased, the flow of air seemed to halt. Even the soul ripples of Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi ceased, and the blood of humans freezing in midair. In this area, time seemed to freeze. Time freeze. Hudu frowned, then glanced back. In the void, a familiar figure appeared. It was a young man, clad in white, cold and murderous. I was wondering when you would come. Hutu had already recognized this young man. Xiang Beifei silently observed the surrounding devastation, his face shrouded in a faint darkness, making his expression unclear. But Hutu knew what he felt. That Xiang Beifei was about to go berserk. The development of the Kangji Abyss over the past few years had already been on track, with all sorts of facilities gradually aligning with Juzhou. People cultivated as they ought, went out searching for resources as needed, and everything progressed toward a promising future. But now all of it had been destroyed. Relying on the Creator's immense dominion, Hutu had obliterated his creation of a paradise. You stopped the time in this area, creating an artwork for me. TSK. Look at these humans. Their terrified little eyes, severed arms with even the splattering blood so vivid. A perfect and natural artwork. Your 5 pieces of stone are meant to capture the world's most beautiful moments, aren't they? Time was frozen, all humans turned into sculptures. Hutu sneered. He knew what the heavenly Tao power sealed by Xiang Beifei's 5 pieces of stone was, capable of freezing time and halting the world. But clearly, the merged Tao of Hutu now is unaffected by this heavenly Tao law. As the creator of 3 creates all things, everything in this world is under his control, and he himself has sealed one of the 4 strongest heavenly Tao, which means his power far exceeds the frozen heavenly Tao sealed by the brick ancestor artifact. Too bad you can't freeze me, you can't even freeze my subordinates. Did you really think I was willing to give you those ancestor artifacts without protecting myself? Didn't you think you got a bargain in the deal at first? Hutu taunted the silent Xiang Beifei, now fused with one of the 4 strongest heavenly Tao. How could he possibly fear something like the frozen heavenly Tao? The reason he dared to choose to return the 5th brick, broken sword hilt, and 3-legged cauldron to Xiang Beifei was that he clearly understood what the bronze fragment meant. It seals one of the world's 4 strongest heavenly Tao, an ancestor artifact. As long as there is a piece of bronze, no woofing divine sword, no 5 pieces of stone, no 3-legged cauldron, they are mere clouds before the tree of life. The transaction that day was simply hugely beneficial to him. Ha ha ha. You simply don't understand what foolish mistake you've made. But it's okay. I'll explain it to you well. I enjoy watching people regret endlessly. Seeing Xiang Beifei arrive, Hutu wasn't in a hurry to use his dominator power to control Xiang Beifei. He wanted to tell him the truth before killing him, to make Xiang Beifei understand all the truth. This way, Xiang Beifei would regret it bitterly. Then in his regret, Hutu would kill him, making him die in unwillingness and humiliation. Defeating opponents and humiliating them this way was what Hutu liked to see most. This world is composed of 4 mighty heavenly Tao. Owning any one of these 4 means owning a part of the world. The bronze fragment you traded to me originally comes from the fourth heavenly Tao. Ha ha ha. Hutu laughed proudly, looking at Xiang Beifei with ridicule. Oh? For heavenly Tao. Xiang Beifei slightly raised his head, revealing his face from the darkness. His eyebrows slightly lifted. What? You haven't heard of the world's strongest four heavenly Tao? Ha ha ha. I'm telling you today, the four heavenly Tao are the ancestors of all heavenly Tao. Even if you collect all the ancestor artifacts, it's useless to me. Hutu sneered repeatedly. He thought after hearing this, Xiang Beifei's face would change. He would be angry, shocked, regretful. But oddly, Xiang Beifei suddenly smiled. His smile was as gentle as jade, showing no sadness for his kind being killed. Why are you laughing? You should be angry now. Hutu disliked Xiang Beifei's smile. He had humans kill each other, eternal life and inquiring Tao periods, even the only two ancestral Tao realm experts of the human race were killed. Supposedly, Xiang Beifei should be very angry now, blinded by rage, showing impotent fury. But Xiang Beifei was laughing, still smiling with indifference. Have you been angered, stupid, because your tribe was exterminated? Hutu squinted. Do I seem to care about these things? Xiang Beifei retorted. You don't care. Seeing Xiang Beifei like this, Hutu became a little angry. Why is this human thief so calm? He had killed the core area of the human race. The opponent should be furious. But his calmness annoyed him, even angered him. What do I care? Xiang Beifei asked. I killed your entire tribe. Hutu shouted harshly. My tribe is in Zheozhou, I thought you knew. Xiang Beifei said. So you don't care about the fate of all humans in Edge Corner airspace? Hutu said coldly. These people? Xiang Beifei looked at the wreckage of Kangji Abyss. The remnants of the soul explosion from Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi were even still spreading and still frozen in place. He smiled calmly, then shook lightly. Buzz. The whole world seemed to start to retrogress. The ripple of ancestral Tao realm self-destruction began to retract. Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi's souls, which had clearly exploded, began to gradually restore. The bodies that had shattered were reassembled. Their souls and bodies combined, and they actually came back to life. Not just them. The humans who had killed each other also began to recover. Severed limbs and broken bodies were reassembled. The heads that were chopped off flew back to their original owners' necks. The crashed formation, the out-of-control mustard seed in palm, the destroyed living facilities. Everything was restored. What's going on? We are still alive. Luo Shanyu looked at his body in amazement, checking his soul. They had clearly been forced to obey Hutu's order to choose self-destruction. Thinking today they couldn't escape misfortune, but unexpectedly everything began to reverse. It's the human king. The human king has arrived. Fu Yuzi looked excitedly at Xiang Beifei in the sky. It's the human king. Long live the human king. All humans in the extremity abyss, upon seeing Xiang Beifei, swept away their look of terror. They finally found their reliance, their savior. As long as Xiang Beifei was there, they understood their race still had hope. Humans cheered, not caring about the dumbfounded Hutu tribesmen in the void. What's going on? Weren't they dead? Why are they still alive? Wu Zhejiu was shocked. Humans had been killed by them, commanded personally by Hutu after merging Tao. Already becoming the world's ruler, he wanted humans dead by the third watch, definitely not leaving anyone by the fifth. But who could have thought the killed humans unexpectedly resurrected miraculously? But they clearly remembered the resurrection heavenly way was under their control. More importantly, even with the resurrection heavenly way, it couldn't resurrect completely without any price. Lord, what's going on? Wu Zhejiu turned his head in shock and asked Hutu. At this time, Hutu obviously reacted. Time retrospection, heavenly Tao. Didn't think you controlled this heavenly Tao. He looked coldly at Xiang Beifei. Time retrospection was also a terrifying heavenly Tao law, capable of forcibly reversing time, meaning no matter what happened, under the interference of this heavenly Tao, everything could be restored to seconds, moments, hours ago. You have a good eye, Xiang Beifei said calmly. Ha ha ha. Time retrospection heavenly Tao, so what? I am the world's creator. Even time is under my control. Collapse for me. Buddha shouted. His voice echoed. Time was created by heavenly Tao and also under his control. That frightening creator's pressure squeeze time, he wanted to cut off the retrogression, make the manipulated time crumble unable to use again. But soon, his expression changed. What's going on? Hutu looked surprised at the humans in front of him. Normally, this shout was enough to break space and time, making the retrospectability fail, making these humans die again. But unexpectedly, led by Luo Shanyu and Fu Yuzi, humans still stood there unharmed. And this time they weren't even affected by his interference. You control the fourth heavenly Tao? But do you know where the remaining three heavenly Tao are? Xiang Beifei asked calmly.